What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto, Ghost of Sparta? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comment, and also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. In the bustling streets of Konohagakure, where the scent of grilled fish and the hum of daily life filled the air, a small figure moved like a ghost among the living. Naruto Uzumaki, barely 8 years old, walked with his head bowed, his spiky blonde hair catching the faintest glint of sunlight. Yet, no warmth reached him. The villagers' eyes, sharp as kunai and cold as the winter winds, followed his every step. Hushed whispers slithered through the crowd, a venomous chorus of disdain. Demon child, monster, the fox's spawn. Their voices were a relentless tide, eroding the fragile shores of his spirit. Mothers clutched their children closer as he passed, shopkeepers turned their backs, and even the stray dogs seemed to growl a warning. To them, he was not a boy, but a living curse, a reminder of a nightmarish past they could neither forgive nor forget. Naruto clenched his fists, his blue eyes flickering with a storm of confusion and hurt, though he dared not let it show. Not yet. The festival of triumph and torment. The day arrived with a cruel irony, the annual festival commemorating the Kyuubi's defeat, a celebration of Konoha's resilience bathed in lanterns, laughter, and the clinking of sake cups. For the village, it was a night of triumph; for Naruto, it was a requiem for his existence. As twilight draped the sky in hues of amber and violet, the streets erupted in revelry. Children darted through the crowds with painted masks, mimicking the heroic fourth Hokage, while elders recounted tales of valor over steaming bowls of ramen. Naruto lingered at the edges, a shadow among the light, drawn by the tantalizing aroma of Ichiraku's broth yet repelled by the weight of 1,000 judgmental gazes. He wore his usual orange jacket, a defiant splash of color against the muted tones of disdain, but it did little to shield him from the chill of isolation. Then came the reckoning. As fireworks burst overhead, painting the night with fleeting brilliance, a group of drunken villagers, emboldened by liquor and old grudges, cornered him in a narrow alley. Their faces, twisted with loathing, loomed like specters of hate. "You don't belong here, freak," one snarled, his breath reeking of sake. Another swung a fist, and soon the blows rained down, fists, feet, and cruel laughter blending into a cacophony of pain. Naruto curled into himself, blood trickling from a split lip, his small frame trembling beneath the onslaught. The festival's joyous din drowned his cries, and no one came to his aid, not the shinobi patrolling the streets, not the elders who preached unity. When the attackers finally staggered away, sated by their violence, Naruto lay crumpled against the cold stone, his body bruised, his spirit fractured, and his heart whispering a single, desperate question. Why me? The Academy's cruel mirror. Days bled into weeks, and Naruto sought solace in the one place he hoped might offer redemption, the Ninja Academy. Yet, even there, he found no sanctuary. The classroom was a battlefield of a different kind, where words cut deeper than blades. His peers mocked him with every misstep. The day he attempted the clone jutsu, a basic technique every aspiring shinobi mastered with ease, became a spectacle of his failure. As instructor Iruka barked the command, Naruto poured his meager chakra into the effort, only to summon a single, pitiful clone, a pale, drooping mockery of himself that collapsed into a puff of smoke. Laughter erupted like wildfire, sharp and merciless. Sasuke smirked from the back, his dark eyes glinting with superiority. Sakura giggled behind her hand, her disdain veiled as amusement. Even the quiet Hinata averted her gaze, unable to meet his shame. Naruto's cheeks burned, a flush of embarrassment warring with the anger simmering in his chest. He slammed his desk, the wood creaking under his small fists, and shouted, "I'll show you all someday." But the words rang hollow, swallowed by the jeers. Iruka's stern reprimand, tinged with a bitterness Naruto couldn't yet name, only deepened the wound. Each failure, each taunt, etched itself into his soul, a gallery of humiliations he carried like invisible scars. The Academy, meant to forge him into a ninja, instead forged a crucible of rage, stoking the embers of a fire he didn't yet know how to unleash. The foxes whispered truth. That night, as Naruto nursed his bruises in the dim light of his shabby apartment, a voice rumbled from the depths of his being, low, guttural, and ancient. The nine tails, Kurama, stirred within its sealed prison, its presence a molten weight in his mind. "This isn't your home, boy," it growled, its tone dripping with scorn yet laced with an odd, knowing certainty. Naruto froze, his breath catching as the fox's words pierced the silence. I don't have anywhere else," he stammered, his voice small against the beast's towering presence. "Nowhere else to go." Kurama's laughter was a thunderclap, reverberating through his skull. Anywhere is better than this festering hellhole. These fools despise you, chain you with their hatred. You're no son of this village. You're a prisoner." The words sank into Naruto like roots into barren soil, stirring something primal, something defiant. For the first time, the fox's voice didn't feel like a curse but a beacon, a call to break free from the shackles of a life that offered him nothing but scorn. He stared out his cracked window at the village below, its lights twinkling like mocking stars, and felt the first stirrings of resolve take root. A farewell in the glow of ramen. The next day, under a sky bruised with the promise of dusk, Naruto made his way to Ichiraku Ramen one final time. The small stand glowed like a lantern in the encroaching gloom, its warmth a rare refuge in his world of cold rejection. Tucci, the grizzled owner, greeted him with a gruff nod, his weathered hands deftly stirring a pot of broth, while Ayame offered a gentle smile, one of the few kindnesses Naruto had ever known. "The usual, kid?" Tucci asked, his voice a rough bomb. Naruto nodded, sliding onto a stool as the steam rose in fragrant curls, wrapping him in a fleeting embrace. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, the salty richness of the broth, the tender noodles, the comfort of a meal not tainted by judgment. The Ichirakus didn't whisper behind his back or flinch at his presence. They simply fed him, a quiet act of humanity amid a sea of hostility. As he finished, he slid a few crumpled coins across the counter, his fingers lingering as if reluctant to let go. "Thanks," he mumbled, his voice thick with unspoken gratitude. Tucci grunted, Ayame waved, and Naruto stepped back into the twilight, his heart heavy with the weight of goodbye. This was his last tether to Konoha, and he was severing it with his own hands. That night, as the village slept beneath a shroud of stars, Naruto moved with the stealth of a wounded animal. In his cramped apartment, he gathered what little he owned, a worn kunai, a threadbare blanket, a small pouch of dried fish stolen from a market stall. His orange jacket hung loose on his thin frame, a defiant banner of the boy he'd been. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the creak of floorboards and the distant howl of a night wind. He paused at the door, casting one last glance at the place he'd called home, a prison of peeling paint and empty echoes. Then, with a breath that tasted of freedom and fear, he slipped into the darkness. The village gates loomed ahead, their wooden arches a silent sentinel under the moon's pale gaze. No guards stirred, the festival's aftermath had left them lax, unsuspecting of the small shadow darting through the underbrush. Naruto's heart pounded, a drumbeat of resolve and terror, as he crossed the threshold. Beyond lay the wild unknown, a world of forests and rivers, of dangers and possibilities. Kurama's voice rumbled faintly, a dark companion in his mind. "Keep going, brat. This is only the beginning." With the night as his cloak and the fox as his guide, Naruto Uzumaki vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a village that had never truly been his, and stepping toward a destiny forged in the fires of a warrior's soul. Chapter 1. Embers of a Fallen Spark. Naruto Uzumaki, a boy of 8 with nothing but a tattered orange jacket and a heart full of defiance, stumbled through it, his small frame dwarfed by the wild unknown. The village he'd fled, a place of whispers and fists, faded into memory, replaced by the gnawing ache of hunger and the bitter sting of solitude. 3 days had passed since he'd slipped past the gates under the moon's cold gaze, and already the romantic notion of freedom had curdled into a desperate fight to survive. His first night alone had been a lesson in frailty. Curled beneath a gnarled tree, his threadbare blanket clutched tight, he'd shivered as the forest came alive with rustles and cries, owls hunting, wolves prowling, the distant snap of twigs under unseen feet. Hunger gnawed at his belly, a relentless beast that drove him to rummage through the underbrush come dawn. He found a cluster of dark berries, their juice staining his fingers purple as he shoveled them into his mouth. They were bitter, and within hours, his stomach twisted in revolt, leaving him retching into the dirt. "Stupid berries," he muttered, wiping his mouth with a trembling hand, his blue eyes glaring at the offending bush as if it had betrayed him personally. Survival demanded more than stubbornness, though, and Naruto learned fast, or suffered for it. By the second day, he'd fashioned his dull kunai into a makeshift spear, plunging it into a stream until a fish flopped onto the bank, its silver scales glinting in the weak sunlight. His hands shook as he gutted it, blood slicking his fingers, the metallic tang mixing with the river's damp musk. He ate it raw, choking down slimy flesh, too hungry to care about the taste. Each small victory, fish caught, a hollow log found for shelter, felt like a defiance of the world that had cast him out. Yet the nights remained cruel, the cold seeping into his bones, and the whispers of Konoha's scorn echoed in the silence. Inside him, another voice stirred, deep and guttural, a rumble that shook his very soul. Pathetic, the nine tails growled, its presence a molten weight in his mind. You'll die out here, runt, and no one will mourn you. Naruto bristled, kicking a stone into the undergrowth. Shut up, I'm doing fine. But the fox's words lingered, a taunt that gnawed at his resolve. He didn't understand the warmth that sometimes flared in his chest, a flicker of chakra healing a scraped knee or steadying his legs when exhaustion threatened to topple him. He chalked it up to grit, unaware of the beast lending him scraps of its power, keeping its vessel alive for its own inscrutable reasons. Danger found him soon enough. On the fourth day, as dusk painted the sky in bruise-like purples, Naruto crept too close to a bandit camp. The scent of roasting meat drew him like a moth to flame, his stomach a traitor that overruled caution. He crouched behind a bush, peering at the flickering fire and the three rough men laughing over their meal, until a twig snapped beneath his foot. Their heads whipped toward him, eyes glinting with malice. "What's this? A little rat?" one sneered, drawing a rusty blade. Naruto bolted, heart-hammering, as footsteps thundered behind him. A thrown dagger grazed his arm, blood welling hot and red, and panic surged, until that strange warmth flared again. His legs moved faster, impossibly so, carrying him into the dense thicket where the bandits' curses faded. Collapsed against a tree, panting, he clutched the shallow wound, whispering, "I'm not going back." Never. Days blurred into a week, then two, each a tapestry of dirt and desperation. His jacket hung in rags, his blonde hair matted with grime, but his eyes burned brighter, a spark refusing to gutter out. Yet even his Uzumaki vitality had limits. On a morning when the sky wept a relentless drizzle, Naruto staggered through a muddy clearing, his vision swimming, his small body trembling from cold and hunger. He tripped over a root, sprawling into the sodden earth, and for a moment, he didn't rise. Rain plastered his hair to his face, mingling with tears he refused to acknowledge. I can't do this," he rasped, fists clenching the mud. A shadow fell over him, broad and unyielding. "Get up, kid, or you're buzzard food." The voice was rough, feminine, edged with a weariness that belied its strength. Naruto squinted through the rain, glimpsing a figure cloaked in a dark poncho, a scarred face framed by short, steel-gray hair. She carried a staff slung with a waterskin, her stance that of a warrior long past caring for ceremony. "You deaf? Move it." Her tone brooked no argument, and when Naruto didn't budge, she grabbed his collar and hauled him to his feet with a grunt. "Fine, you're coming with me. Don't make me regret it." Her name was Hana, a shinobi once of Kumogakure, now a hermit carved from disillusionment. Her hut sat on the edge of a forgotten farming hamlet, a weathered shell of planks and thatch surrounded by patchy fields. She'd fled Kumo years ago, sick of Kumo's ruthless ambition. She broke under the weight of secrets she couldn't unlearn. She knew too much, and Kumo never forgave deserters who carried such burdens. Hana didn't coddle Naruto, didn't ask his story. She shoved a bowl of thin porridge into his hands that first night, growling, "Eat. You're no use dead." Days stretched into a fragile rhythm. Hana was a harsh teacher, her lessons born of survival rather than kindness. She showed him how to set snares for rabbits, the wire biting into his fingers until he got it right. How to sharpen his kunai on a whetstone, her calloused hands guiding his. How to read the stars through the hut's cracked roof, her voice low as she named constellations from a life she'd left behind. "You're a wildfire, kid," she said once, watching him stab at a log with his blade in frustration. "Burn too hot, you'll fizzle out. Learn to bank it." Her rare, crooked smiles, earned when he snagged a fat hair or didn't flinch at her barked orders, were the closest thing to warmth he'd known since Ichiraku's. Naruto didn't trust her fully, not at first. Konoha's scars ran deep, and he slept with his kunai under his blanket, eyeing her warily. But the meals, rabbit stew, wild onions, the occasional loaf of coarse bread, filled his hollow belly, and her gruff presence steadied him. She didn't whisper about demons or glare at his whiskered cheeks. She just was, solid, scarred, a rock in the storm of his life. One night, as rain drummed the roof, he dared to ask, "Why'd you leave your village?" Hana's eyes darkened, her fingers tightening on her staff. "Because some places turn you into something you can't stand to see in the mirror," she said, and left it at that. Naruto didn't press, but the words stuck, a mirror to his own flight. Months passed of this uneasy peace shattered on a twilight thick with foreboding. Naruto had gone to gather firewood, the forest quiet save for the crunch of leaves underfoot. He hummed a tuneless song, arms full of branches, when a scream cut the air, Hana's voice, raw and furious. Dropping the wood, he sprinted back, heart pounding, until the hut came into view. Smoke curled from its roof, flames licking the walls, and three figures clad in Kumo flak jackets circled Hana like vultures. She fought with a ferocity that belied her age, her staff crackling with faint lightning chakra, parrying a tanto strike from a wiry ninja with a scarred lip. Another, broad and bull-like, hurled a kunai she deflected with a grunt, while a third, a woman with cold eyes, flung a bolt of electricity that grazed Hana's side, drawing a hiss of pain. Naruto ducked behind a tree, his breath shallow, eyes wide as Hana staggered, blood seeping from a gash on her arm. "Traitor!" the scarred man spat, lunging with his blade. Hana sidestepped, cracking her staff against his knee, but the bull charged, slamming her into the burning hut's wall. She coughed, ash smearing her face, and roared, "Run, kid! Get out of here!" Her voice broke on the last word, a plea wrapped in command. The woman's lightning surged again, striking Hana square in the chest, and she crumpled, her staff rolling into the dirt as the flames roared higher. Naruto's world tilted. The hut blazed, a pyre consuming the only refuge he'd found, and Hana lay still, her gray hair splayed in the mud, blood pooling beneath her. Grief clawed at his throat, a sob choking free, then rage, hot and blinding, swallowed it whole. "No, no," he screamed, fists pounding the earth, tears carving tracks through the grime on his face. Inside, Kurama's voice thundered, a tidal wave crashing through his mind. "Feel it, brat. That's your power, your birthright." The air thickened, his chakras surging wild and red, a storm of fury born from loss. A searing heat erupted from his core, and with a guttural cry, Naruto's hands ignited. Chains burst forth, coiling around his arms like serpents of fire, jagged blades at their ends, glowing with the nine tails' crimson wrath. The blades of chaos, Kratos' soul-bound legacy, materialized in a flare of ash and flame, their weight both alien and right in his grasp. His skin paled faintly, ashen streaks blooming across his arms, and his blue eyes blazed with a fury not entirely his own. The Kumo ninja spun at the sound, their faces twisting in shock as this small, ragged boy rose from the shadows, a demon of fire and steel. "Who the hell?" the scarred man began, drawing his tanto, but Naruto's scream cut him off, a primal roar that shook the trees. The blades lashed out, chains whistling through the air, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. Hana's killers froze, weapons raised, as the boy they dismissed became something else entirely. The night held its breath, the flames casting long shadows, and Naruto, Kratos reborn, stepped forward, ready to carve his vengeance from their flesh. The night air thrummed with tension, a taut string ready to snap, as Naruto stood amidst the smoldering ruins of Hana's hut. Flames licked the sky, casting an infernal glow across his small, trembling form, but it was the fire within him that burned hottest. The blades of chaos, chain-linked relics of a warrior's soul, coiled around his arms, their crimson edges pulsing with the nine tails chakra, a symphony of rage and power he didn't yet understand. His blue eyes, now flecked with embers of red, locked onto the three Kumo ninja before him, their silhouettes stark against the blaze. Hana's blood stained the earth at their feet, her broken staff a mute witness to her final stand, and Naruto's scream still echoed in the trees, a primal wail that had birthed this moment. The Kumo ninja stared, momentarily dumbstruck by the boy's transformation. The scarred leader gripped his blade tighter, his lip curling. What's this? The kid's got some trick up his sleeve? Beside him, the bull-like brute, Guro, cracked his knuckles, his broad frame rippling with muscle, while the woman, Rika, narrowed her cold eyes, lightning chakras sparking at her fingertips. Doesn't matter, she said, voice sharp as a blade. He's seen too much. Finish him. Naruto didn't wait for them to move. Rage, hot, blinding, a torrent of Hana's loss and Konoha's scorn, propelled him forward, the chains rattling like a war drum. He swung his right arm in a wild arc, the blade slashing through the air with a hiss, its fiery tip aimed at the leader's chest. The scarred ninja reacted fast, parrying with his tanto in a shower of sparks, but the force knocked him back, his boots skidding in the mud. He's strong, the leader barked, surprise lacing his tone. Guro charged, a human battering ram, his massive fist cocked for a blow that could shatter stone. Naruto, untrained but fueled by instinct, ducked under the swing, the wind of it ruffling his matted hair. He lashed out with the left blade, the chain whipping around Goro's ankle like a serpent. With a yank, he sent the brute's sprawling face first into the dirt, a bellow of frustration muffled by soil. Stay down, Naruto snarled, his voice cracking with boyish fury, but Guro rolled to his feet, tearing the chain free with a grunt. Rika struck next, her hands flashing through seals, lightning release, thunderlance. A bolt of electricity arced toward Naruto, bright and lethal, sizzling the damp air. He stumbled back, the heat grazing his cheek, leaving a stinging burn, but the nine tails chakra flared instinctively, a red haze shielding him from the worst. Missed me, he spat, adrenaline drowning his fear, and hurled both blades in a spinning flurry. The chains crisscrossed like a net, forcing Rika to leap aside, her ponytail singed as one blade clipped past. The weapons slammed into a tree, embedding deep, and Naruto yanked them back with a roar, splinters exploding outward. Brat, the leader growled, seizing the opening. He darted in, tanto slashing in a precise arc toward Naruto's throat. The boy's reflexes, honed by weeks of dodging bandits and beasts, kicked in, and he twisted, the blade slicing a shallow line across his shoulder instead. Blood welled, hot and sticky, but pain only sharpened his fury. He swung both chains upward in a brutal counter, catching the leader's arm mid-strike. The blades bit into flesh, drawing a hiss of pain as the ninja wrenched free, blood dripping from his sleeve. You'll pay for that, he snarled, retreating a step to regroup. Guro lumbered back into the fray, fists glowing with faint chakra. He swung a double-handed smash, aiming to crush Naruto into the ground. The boy dove left, rolling through ash and mud, and came up swinging. The right blade lashed out, wrapping Goro's arm, and Naruto pulled hard, using the brute's momentum to slam him into Rika. They collided with a grunt, tumbling in a heap, and Naruto pounced, leaping onto Goro's back. He drove the left blade down, aiming for the shoulder, but Guro bucked him off, the weapon grazing his side instead, tearing cloth and skin. Naruto hit the ground hard, breath knocked out, but scrambled up, teeth bared. I'm not done. Inside, Kurama's laughter rumbled, dark and gleeful. That's it, brat. Let it out, tear them apart. The fox's voice stoked the fire, and Naruto's movements grew wilder, less a boy's and more a beast's. He charged again, blades whirling like twin suns, a chaotic dance of fire and steel. Tanto met him head-on, their weapons clashing, metal on chakra-infused metal, sparks flying like a forge at work. The ninja's skill outmatched Naruto's raw power, deflecting each strike with practiced ease, until a feint opened Naruto's guard. The leader's tanto plunged toward his chest, but Naruto twisted at the last second, the blade slicing his ribs instead, a shallow but bloody gash. He staggered, gasping, blood soaking his torn jacket. Rika recovered, her hands crackling with a new jutsu, lightning release, storm net. A web of electric threads shot forth, aiming to ensnare him. Naruto's instincts screamed, and he dove, the net singeing his leg as it passed overhead, crashing into the burning hut and sending embers skyward. Too slow, he taunted, though his voice trembled with pain. He retaliated with a desperate swing, the chains lashing out in a wide arc. Rika ducked, but Guro, slower, took the hit, both blades raking across his chest, leaving deep, bloody furrows. The brute roared, clutching the wounds, and stumbled back, his strength faltering. The leader pressed the advantage, his tanto flashing in a flurry of strikes, left, right, down, each aimed to wear Naruto down. The boy parried clumsily, the chains awkward in his untrained hands, but his Uzumaki resilience kept him standing. Blood dripped from his shoulder, his ribs, his leg, painting the ground red, yet he grinned, a feral, defiant thing. "You killed her," he rasped, voice breaking. "You don't get to walk away." He swung both blades in a cross, forcing the leader to block with his tanto braced horizontally. The impact rang out, a metallic clang, and Tanto's arms trembled under the force. Guro, bloodied but unbowed, roared and charged again, tackling Naruto from the side. They crashed into the dirt, the brute's weight pinning him, fists hammering down. Naruto's vision blurred, pain exploding with each blow, cheek, jaw, chest, but the blades reacted, chains coiling around Goro's neck like a noose. With a guttural yell, Naruto yanked, flipping Guro off and sending him sprawling into the mud, choking. Rika's lightning flared anew, a bolt aimed at Naruto's back, but he rolled, the blast scorching the earth where he'd been. He sprang up, panting, and hurled a blade at her, a wild, spinning throw. She sidestepped, but the chain caught her arm, yanking her off balance with a yelp. The fight teetered on chaos, a brutal ballet of blood and fire. Naruto's small frame darted between them, blades lashing out, unrefined, reckless but relentless. The leader lunged again, his tanto slashing a shallow cut across Naruto's thigh, but the boy countered with a chain whip that cracked across his face, splitting his scar wider with a spray of blood. Guro staggered up, clutching his chest, and swung a wild punch Naruto dodged, retaliating with a blade thrust that pierced the brute's shoulder, pinning him to a tree with a howl. Rika's lightning crackled, a desperate shot that grazed Naruto's arm, blistering the skin, but he roared through the pain, pulling the blade free from Guro and swinging it at her in a fiery arc. The trio faltered, their coordination fraying. The leader wiped blood from his eyes, his breaths ragged. "He's just a kid, how's he still standing?" Guro slumped against the tree, clutching his wounds, while Rika's hands trembled, chakra flickering. Naruto, battered and bleeding, stood defiant, the blades of chaos glowing brighter, their chains rattling with each heaving breath. Hana's death replayed in his mind, her scream, her fall, the flames, and something snapped. "You took everything," he bellowed, voice a raw, shattered thing, and the nine tails chakras surged, a red aura flaring around him like a second skin. He charged, a whirlwind of fury, blades slashing in tandem, left at the leader, right at Rika, chains snapping like vipers. The leader parried, but the force drove him back, his tanto trembling. Rika dodged, her lightning flickering out, exhaustion creeping in. Guro tore free from the tree, blood streaming, and swung a last, desperate fist, but Naruto leapt, the chains wrapping Goro's arm and yanking him into Rika. They crashed together, stunned, and Naruto landed, spinning both blades overhead in a fiery helix. The chains descended, aimed to end it, their tips screaming through the air toward the Kumo ninja huddled in the ash. But the night held its breath, the blades hovering inches from their targets. Naruto's arms shook, blood dripping, his rage warring with the boy he'd been. The leader smirked, sensing weakness, and raised his tanto. Rika's hand sparked faintly, Guro groaned, stirring. The cliff hung sharp and deadly, would Naruto strike, or falter? The flames roared behind him, Hana's pyre a silent judge, as the blades of chaos gleamed, thirsting for blood. The night hung heavy, a shroud of smoke and silence pierced only by the crackling of Hana's burning hut. Naruto Uzumaki stood at the heart of the devastation, a small figure dwarfed by the Inferno's wrath, yet towering in the fury that consumed him. The blades of chaos hovered above the Kumo ninja, chains taut, their crimson tips glinting with the promise of retribution. Blood oozed from his wounds, staining the ash beneath his feet, his ragged breaths a jagged rhythm against the fire's roar. Takeo, the scarred leader, smirked through a bloodied face, his tanto raised in a final taunt. Rika's hands flickered with dying lightning, her cold eyes defiant. Guro slumped, clutching his torn chest, a groan escaping his lips. They were battered, broken, yet alive, a mockery of Naruto's loss that ignited the storm within him. The weight of Hana's death crashed over him like a tidal wave. You took everything, Naruto rasped, his voice a fractured shard, tears carving rivers through the grime on his cheeks. The blades trembled, his small arms quaking, not from exhaustion, but from a rage too vast to hold. Inside, Kurama's presence surged, a molten furnace flaring in his soul. "Finish it, brat," the Nine-Tails snarled, its voice a thunderous decree laced with savage delight. "They don't deserve another breath." Red chakra erupted, a searing flood that coursed through Naruto's veins, wrapping his hands in a crimson glow that pulsed into the chains. His scream shattered the stillness, a raw, primal wail that shook the trees, and the blades descended. The right chain lashed downward, coiling around Goro's neck like a fiery serpent. With a savage yank, Naruto snapped the brute's spine, the crack resounding like a thunderclap, Goro's massive body slumping lifeless into the mud, eyes wide in eternal shock. Takeo lunged, Tonto slashing in a desperate arc, but Kurama's boost turned Naruto into a blur. He ducked, the left blade swinging upward, its jagged edge cleaving through Takeo's jaw. Blood sprayed in a crimson arc as the ninja's head jerked back, his smirk severed in death. Rika's lightning flared, a final bolt of defiance, but Naruto spun, both chains crossing in a fiery whirlwind. They sliced through her chest, her scream dying as she crumpled, electricity fizzling into the night air. Silence fell, heavy and absolute, broken only by the fire's hungry crackle and Naruto's heaving gasps. The blades retracted, their chains coiling back into his soul, their glow dimming as the red haze faded from his eyes. He stared at the slaughter, three bodies sprawled in the ash, blood pooling in dark rivers, the air thick with the stench of death. His hands shook, slick with gore, and a wave of nausea surged, bile burning his throat. He'd killed, not to survive, but to avenge. His knees buckled, and he sank to the earth, staring at the carnage, the reality of his actions sinking in like a blade. "Hana," he whispered, turning to the pyre, its flames leaping higher, consuming the last traces of her existence. He crawled forward, heedless of the heat, and reached into the blaze, dragging Hana's charred form free. Her gray hair was ash, her scarred face slack, the staff she'd wielded reduced to cinders. Tears flowed freely, hot and relentless, as he cradled her, his small arms trembling under her weight. "I'm sorry," he sobbed, voice breaking into jagged pieces. I wasn't fast enough." The firelight danced in his blue eyes, reflecting a tempest of grief and fury. Thoughts of Kumo consumed him, her killers, their village, the raikage who'd unleashed them. "They'll pay," he yelled, tears streaming, his voice rising to a ragged howl that pierced the night. "I'll burn Kumo to the ground for you, for everything they've done." Kurama's rumble sliced through his anguish, deep and deliberate. "Calm yourself, boy. Your time will come. Kumo's no flea you crush in a fit, it's a beast, and you're still a whelp." The fox's tone carried a rare steadiness, a promise beneath its usual scorn. "Grow strong, then rip their throats out." Naruto clenched his fists, Hana's body cooling in his arms, and nodded, a silent oath carved into his heart. The flames dwindled to embers, the night stretching on, and he sat there, lost in the weight of his vow, the blood on his hands a testament to the path he'd chosen. Dawn crept over the horizon, a pale smear of light that cast long shadows across the ruined clearing. Naruto buried Hana beneath a gnarled oak, its roots clawing at the earth like mourners' hands. He dug with his bloodied fingers, the damp soil clinging to his skin, each scoop a labor of grief. Sweat mingled with tears, his breaths coming in short, ragged bursts as he hollowed out her grave. When it was deep enough, he laid her gently within, her form small and frail against the dark earth. He piled stones atop her, a rough cairn, the only marker he could offer, and knelt there, hands pressed to the cold rocks. "Rest now," he muttered, voice hoarse, brushing dirt from his palms. "I'll make it right. I swear it." He lingered, the forest silent around him, the embers of the hut glowing faintly in the morning mist. His wounds throbbed, cuts on his shoulder, ribs, and thigh, burns from Rika's lightning, but the Nine-Tails chakra had begun its slow work, knitting flesh beneath the blood and grime. The blades of chaos lay dormant within him, their weight a mystery he couldn't yet unravel. Flashes of Kratos' memories flickered, blood-soaked fields, a towering figure wreathed in storm, a betrayal that seared, but they were disjointed, a puzzle missing pieces. "Who am I?" he whispered, staring at his hands, the blood stains a dark map of his deeds. Kurama's voice answered, low and mocking. You're what they made you, a killer. Embrace it, or die. Naruto's jaw tightened, the words of bitter truth he couldn't shake. He stayed by the grave as the sun climbed higher, its weak rays filtering through the canopy, casting dappled light on Hana's cairn. The forest stirred faintly, birds resuming their songs, a breeze rustling leaves, but it felt distant, a world apart from the storm within him. His orange jacket hung in tatters, blood-soaked and singed, a relic of the boy he'd been. Now, he was something else, a spark of vengeance, flickering but unquenched, waiting to blaze. Kumo first, he murmured, voice steadying, the promise settling like stone in his chest. Then Konoha, every last one of them. Meanwhile, in Konohagakure, the village simmered with unease beneath its tranquil mask. The Hokage's office, perched atop the red domed tower, was a crucible of clashing wills, the air thick with tension and the faint scent of pipe smoke. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, sat behind his desk, his weathered face etched with lines of weariness and regret. Before him stood Danzo Shimura, cloaked in dark robes, his single eye glinting with cold accusation, his bandaged arm a silent testament to battles past. The room pulsed with their voices, sharp and discordant, as Naruto's disappearance unraveled a fragile piece stitched over years. You've lost him, Hiruzen, Danzo said, his tone a blade sheathed in calm, cutting nonetheless. The 9 tails slipped through your fingers because you couldn't keep a leash on that boy. I warned you he was a liability, a loose ember waiting to ignite. He should have been mine. Root would have forged him into a weapon, not a runaway. His voice dripped with contempt, his hand clenching as if to grasp the power he'd been denied. Hiruzen exhaled a plume of smoke, his gaze steady but heavy with burden. And strip him of his soul in the process? I'd hoped for more, Danzo, for him, for this village. He's a child, not a tool to be wielded. Danzo's lip curled, a sneer breaking his stoic mask. A child with a demon sealed in his gut, and now he's loose, likely dead in a ditch, or worse, in Kumo's hands, their new toy. Your sentimentality has endangered us all. He paced, his robes whispering against the floor, voice rising with each step. Iwa, Kiri, any of them, they'd killed to claim that power. Or he'll turn it on us, mark my words. The blood of this failure stains your hands. Hiruzen tapped his pipe against the desk, a measured rhythm cutting through the tirade. I've already acted. Jiraiya's been informed, he's scouring the world for Naruto as we speak. If anyone can find him, it's him. The door creaked open, and a new voice pierced the fray, Kaharu Utatane, elder advisor, her stern face framed by gray hair pulled tight, her presence a quiet storm. And if Jiraiya fails? She asked, stepping forward, her tone clipped and unforgiving. Whispers of the demon child fleeing have reached the streets, merchants gossip, clans mutter. We can't afford instability, not with Kumo stirring. Homura Mitokado followed, his thin frame stooped but eyes sharp as honed steel. Danzo's right about one thing, control was lax. The boy's a symbol, whether we like it or not. We should have locked him tighter, caged him, if need be. Hiruzen's jaw tightened, a rare flicker of anger breaking his calm facade. Enough, he snapped, voice low but firm, the weight of the Hokage's mantle behind it. I won't chain a boy for crimes he didn't commit, for a burden we thrust upon him. Jiraiya will bring him back, or at least ensure he's safe from those who'd exploit him. Until then, we watch the borders. Kumo's movements, these ninja kids disappearing, it's no coincidence. He leaned forward, pipe smoldering in his hand. I failed him once, letting him slip away. I won't fail him again by turning him into a prisoner. Danzo paused at the door, half turning, his eye narrowing. Pray your toad finds him before I do, old friend. Root doesn't wait for sentiment, or for your regrets. The door slammed shut, a punctuation of finality, leaving Hiruzen alone with the elders. Kaharu sighed, folding her arms. You're too soft, Hiruzen. That softness may cost us. Homura nodded, adjusting his glasses. The boy's a spark in dry grass. If he's alive, he's trouble, we can't ignore that. Hiruzen stared out the window, the village sprawling below, the Hokage monument's stone faces gazing back in silent judgment. He's alive, he murmured, more to himself than them. I feel it, and I fear what he'll become. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across Hana's grave, the forest wrapping Naruto in a quiet embrace. He sat there, knees drawn to his chest, the embers of the hut glowing faintly in the dusk. His wounds ached, his body a map of scars and burns, but his eyes burned brighter, a fire stoked by loss and resolve. The blades hummed within him, a dark promise he couldn't yet name, and Kurama's words echoed, "Grow strong." He traced a finger over the cairn's stones, voice a whisper in the stillness. "I'll do it, Hana. For you. For me." The night settled, heavy and vast, and Naruto remained. A boy no more, but a specter of vengeance taking root, the world yet to know the blaze he'd ignite. The forest cradled Hana's grave in silence, its shadows a somber farewell as Naruto Uzumaki lingered by the cairn. Dawn's pale light filtered through the trees, glinting off the stones he'd piled over her resting place, but it offered no warmth to the chill in his bones. His wounds, cuts, burns, bruises from the Kumo ninja, had scabbed over, the nine tails chakra a grudging stitch holding him together. The blades of chaos lay dormant within, a hum of power he couldn't yet name, and though Kumo burned in his thoughts, Kurama's words echoed, "Grow strong." With a final whisper, "I'll make it right, Hana," he turned from the grave, stepping into the wilds. A small figure cloaked in tattered orange, oblivious to the unseen force shielding his path from prying eyes. In Konohagakure, frustration gnawed at the Hokage's office. Jiraiya slammed a scroll onto Hiruzen's desk, his white hair wild, eyes blazing. "I've tracked every damn trail from here to the border, nothing, old man. My toads lose his scent, rivers twist, winds howl like banshees. Something's hiding him, and it's pissing me off." Hiruzen puffed his pipe, gaze heavy. Danzo's route fares no better, tracks vanish, maps mislead. An unseen hand meddles, Jiraiya, and I dread its intent. Far off, in a shadowed Akatsuki lair, Pain's Rinnegan gleamed as Itachi reported, "The Nine Tails boy eludes us, storms foil our scouts, informants disappear." Kisame grinned, but Pain silenced him. "We wait. Forces beyond us guard him, for now." The mysterious power wove its veil, granting Naruto a reprieve he didn't seek. Naruto wandered west, his focus narrowing to survival, travel, money, training. The wilds tested him, hunger a constant ache, but he fished with his kunai and scavenged what he could. One dusk, as he crouched by a stream, a voice cut through the stillness, brash, warm. "Oi, kid, you look like a drowned fox." A girl stepped from the trees, 12 or so, with cropped black hair and a patched tunic, a sling swinging at her hip. "Name's Kiri. Lost or just dumb?" Naruto scowled, hand on his kunai, but her grin softened him. "Just, moving." She tossed him a stale rice ball, plopping beside him. "Lucky day, then. I'm with a crew, traveling merchants, kinda. We need hands. Pay scraps, but it's food." Suspicion battled hunger, but Naruto nodded, biting into the rice. Kiri led him to a creaking caravan, 3 wagons, a ragtag band. Ren, a wiry boy with a limp and clever fingers, fixed axles with quiet focus. Saya, a gentle woman with sad eyes, stitched wounds and brewed tea, her touch a balm. Old Tatsu, grizzled and gruff, drove the lead wagon, his curses a rough lullaby. "Don't steal, don't slack," Tatsu growled, eyeing Naruto's scars. "You're in." And so, he was. For 2 months, the caravan became his world, a fragile haven rolling through dusty trails and misty woods. Naruto hauled crates, guarded their wares, pots, herbs, cheap cloth, etc., his first taste of honest work. Kiri dragged him into her schemes, teaching him to haggle with farmers, her laughter ringing as he fumbled a trade for potatoes. "You're hopeless, Blondie," she'd tease, dodging his playful shove, and he'd grin despite himself, her warmth thawing his edges. Ren shared late-night talks by the fire, showing him how to mend a broken wheel, etc. Their silence is comfortable, his shy smile a rare gift. Saya patched his old wounds, her hands steady as she stitched a gash from a thorn bush, murmuring, "You're tougher than you look, little one." Tatsu, grumbling, slipped him extra bread once, muttering, "Don't tell the brats," and Naruto hid a smile, chewing quietly. They grew close, a patchwork family of outcasts. Kiri chatted about her dream to see the sea. Ren carved a tiny wooden fox, pressing it into Naruto's hand with a blush. Saya sang soft lullabies, her voice a thread of peace. Tatsu regaled them with tales of his youth, half true and wholly wild. Naruto trained in secret, slipping away at night to summon the blades of chaos, chains slashing trees, his small frame straining, Kratos' memories flickering like ghosts. Kurama watched, its rare silence a nod as he grew stronger, the blades less wild in his grip. For those days, he dared to feel safe, their laughter a shield against the dark, their bonds a fragile light he hadn't known since Hana. But light draws shadows, and theirs came as the Iron Claw, a rogue ninja band, 15 strong. No mere bandits, they were deserters from the elemental nations. Whispers of their raids had haunted the caravan's trail, and one foggy dawn, as the wagons rolled through a narrow pass, they struck. The air split with a roar, earth jutsu erupting, rocks raining as a burly ninja, Genta, smashed the lead wagon to splinters. Tatsu drew his sword, cursing, but a water whip from a woman, Mizu, yanked him down, her blade piercing his chest. He gasped, blood bubbling, and fell silent, his tail snuffed out. Naruto yelled, kunai flashing, but the Iron Claw were relentless. Kiri slung stones, cracking a ninja's jaw, but Genta's fist slammed her into a tree. She crumpled, blood streaking her face, alive but still. Ren shoved Naruto aside, taking a wind jutsu meant for him, a slicing gust from a scarred man, K's, that tore through Ren's chest. He collapsed, the wooden fox falling from his hand, his last breath a wheeze of, run. Saya shielded Kiri, hurling a smoke bomb, but Mizu's water whip coiled around her neck, snapping it with a sickening crack. Her lullabies died, her body slumping in the mud. Naruto's world shattered, grief and rage igniting. No, he screamed, the blades of chaos erupting, chains lashing out in a fiery storm. He charged Genta, blades swinging, wide arcs clashed against stone fists, sparks flying as the ninja parried with earth chakra armor. Mizu's water surged, a torrent that knocked Naruto back, soaking his tattered jacket, but he rolled, chains whipping her legs. She stumbled, cursing. Kaze's wind sliced at him, a gash opening on his arm, but Naruto roared, Kurama's chakra flaring red, boosting his speed. He ducked a boulder, hurling a blade at Kaze. It pierced the man's shoulder, pinning him to a tree with a howl. The Iron Claw pressed harder, 5 more joined, kunai and jutsu raining down. A fire jutsu scorched his leg, a shadow clone fainted only to be dispelled, but Naruto fought on, blades tearing through blood spraying. Genta charged, earth fist smashing, and Naruto took a blow to the ribs, cracking bone, pain blinding. He staggered, but a memory surged, Kratos' family, ash on his hands, and the bow of Apollo materialized, glowing with 9 tails fire. He loosed an arrow, flaming and swift. It struck Genta's chest, exploding in a burst of gore, felling the brute. Mizu and Kaze rallied the rest, their jutsu weaving, water and wind merging into a slashing storm. Naruto's blades spun, deflecting, but exhaustion clawed him, blood dripping from a dozen cuts. Another memory flashed, Kratos ensnaring a god, and the nemesis whip uncoiled, its spiked length crackling with chakra. He lashed it at Mizu, wrapping her arm, yanking her into a blade's path. She screamed, gutted, and fell. Kaze lunged, wind howling, but Naruto's whip snared his leg, pulling him down. The blades finished him, a cross/severing life. The survivors, 6, fled into the mist, their leader's corpse a warning. Naruto collapsed, panting, surrounded by death, Ren, Saya, Tatsu gone, Kiri barely breathing. He crawled to Ren, brushing his friend's eyes closed, tears falling. "You idiot, why?" Kiri stirred, sobbing over Saya, and Naruto's voice broke. I can't lose anyone else." Kurama's growl cut through, icy and final. "Then stop caring, brat. They die, you live. That's your fate." The words sank deep, a bitter shard, and he stood, weapons retracting, his face a mask of ice. He buried them under a willow, graves rough like Hana's, stones piled in silent mourning. Ren's wooden fox rested atop his, Saya's herbs on hers, Tatsu's sword by his. Kiri, arm broken, wept as she helped, alive but fragile. "Go," Naruto said, voice hollow, turning away. "Find a village. I'm done." She grabbed his sleeve, tears streaming. "We're a team, Naruto." "Don't do this," but he pulled free, her cries fading as he walked into the dusk. The bow and whip joined the blades, his heart sealed shut. No more bonds, no more pain, only vengeance. 4 years bled into a crimson tide. Naruto, now Kratos reborn, hunted rogue ninja and evil cabals, a lone wolf feared across the lands. He tracked the Iron Claw's remnants, bow arrows piercing from shadows, blades tearing through camps, none survived his wrath. He felled the Black Serpent, a trafficking ring, with the Nemesis whip, their screams a requiem. Villages whispered of the Ashen Demon, his blonde hair wild, frame hardened, scars multiplying, ashen streaks marking his Kratos soul. Konoha's trackers faltered, Akatsuki paused, and the world trembled at the specter who left only blood and ruin, his lost friends' graves a silent fuel for a fire that would one day consume all. In a realm beyond mortal sight, where shadows danced and fates were woven, the goddess of destiny sat upon her loom, her three faces, past, present, future, glowing faintly in the ether. Her hands moved, threads of gold and crimson twisting into a tapestry of chaos. Her voice, a chorus of whispers, echoed through the void. The ghost of Sparta rises anew, reborn in a vessel of flame and fury. Kratos, slayer of gods, shall wield his blades once more, and the heavens shall tremble. The divine shall fall, their thrones shattered by his wrath. The prophecy rippled outward, a tremor felt by powers unseen, its words igniting dread and ambition in equal measure. In the distant a cloaked figure chuckled. The god responsible for the false prophecy, his identity veiled but his intent clear, savored the deception. The game was set, and the world would bleed for it. 4 years had hardened Naruto Uzumaki into a specter of vengeance, Kratos reborn, his name a whisper of terror across the elemental nations. His head was bald, shaved clean by necessity and time, his frame lean but muscled, scars crisscrossing his flesh like a map of lost battles won. Ashen streaks marked his skin, a badge of his Spartan soul, and his arsenal had grown, blades of chaos, bow of Apollo and the Nemesis whip. He roamed the land of waves, a coastal sprawl of mist and misery, drawn by tales of Gato, a tyrant merchant whose greed choked the people like a noose. Under a henge, his features morphed into a nondescript youth with brown hair and dull eyes. He took the alias, Jin, accepting Gato's coin to kill a bridge builder named Tazuna. The job was a ruse, a means to get close to Gato and also a chance to fight Tazuna's guards. The mist hung thick as Naruto tracked Tazuna along a muddy road, the old man flanked by 4 shinobi, Team 7. Kakashi Hitaki led them, silver hair glinting, Sharingan hidden beneath his headband. Sasuke Uchiha, dark and brooding, exuded a quiet menace. Sakura Haruno, pink hair a splash of color, and Sai, pale and expressionless, clutched a scroll. Naruto's heart stuttered. Sasuke and Sakura, faces from a past he'd buried, stirred a flicker of recognition, but Kakashi and Sai were strangers. He shoved the emotion down, gripping the Leviathan axe hidden under his cloak, its cold weight grounding him. Naruto stepped into Team 7's path, mist swirling, voice low, "Old man, your time's up." Kakashi's eye narrowed, kunai flashing, "State your business, or don't, and we'll bury you." Naruto smirked beneath the henge, unsheathing the Leviathan axe. Its frost-etched blade shimmered, air crackling as he swung a wide arc initiating the frost-slash combo. Kakashi leapt back, kunai deflecting in sparks, the ground icing in a jagged web. "Interesting toy," Kakashi mused, "he's too strong for a thug, chakras off." Hermes' boots flared, Naruto blurred forward axe slashing down with frost-charged momentum. Kakashi dodged, earth-splitting, frost webbing outward. He countered with lightning blade, electricity streaking. Naruto axe met the lightning in a clash, ice shards sprayed, thunder roared. Kakashi's arms strained, raw power, no finesse, like a beast unleashed. Sai darted in, ink lions roaring, claws slashing. Naruto grunted, "Back up, huh?" and hurled the axe, its blade spinning, frost trailing like a comet. It cleaved one lion, ice exploding in a chilling burst, but Sai rolled, another lunging. Kakashi barked, "Sai, stay back, too late." Naruto recalled the axe midair, boots flashing, slamming it into Kakashi's guard. A shockwave of frost rippled, staggering the Junin. Kakashi parried, panting, he is on another level. Sasuke's Sharingan blazed, fireball jutsu roaring, a blazing sphere. Naruto ducked, flames singeing his cloak, and spun the axe upward. A whirlwind of frost clashed with fire, steam hissing, obscuring the field. Sakura shielded Tazuna, shouting, "Who are you?" Naruto ignored her, academy taunts biting deep, but he buried them. Naruto didn't falter. He pressed Kakashi, axe-weaving combos, frost slash to charge of the white bear, boots boosting a spinning feint. Glaive storm, heavy runic attack. The axe spun in a wide arc, frost slashing air. Kakashi ducked, kunai thrusting, grazing Naruto's ribs, blood seeped, but he grinned, feral. Sai's ink pinned his flank, tigers clawing, while Sasuke's Chidori screeched, lightning arcing. Naruto snarled, hurling the axe skyward. It crashed down, frost exploding in a radial blast, shattering ink beasts, forcing Sasuke back. Kakashi lunged, Sharingan tracking, kunai slashing. Naruto parried with the recalled axe, ice meeting steel, then spun low, hitting a quick frost jab to Kakashi's leg, icing his shin briefly. Kakashi grunted, retreating. He's too fast, too strong. Sakura joined, kunai flashing. Naruto sidestepped, boots blurring, axe swinging. A massive frost wave erupted, forcing Team 7 to scatter, ice-coating trees. Sasuke countered, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, fireballs raining. Naruto planted the axe, slamming it down. Frost erupted upward, snuffing flames, ground trembling. Sai's Ink Tiger leapt. Naruto recalled the axe, spinning it, frost shards sprayed, shredding the beast. Kakashi dashed in, shadow clone fainting. Naruto's axe met the clone, dispelling it, but the real Kakashi's kunai nicked his shoulder. Naruto chuckled, not worth it, and hurled the axe skyward and it spun, frost bursting in a blinding storm, covering his retreat. Boots flared, and he vanished into the mist, blood trailing. Kakashi panted, lowering his kunai. A monster, Gato's hired a force of nature. Those eyes, familiar but twisted. He retreated. Why? Sasuke glared, coward. Sakura frowned. What was that? Tazuna muttered, death walking. Kakashi's unease deepened. Not just a blade, a storm brewing. Naruto walked onward, blood dripping from his side as he trudged to Gato's compound, a squat fortress of wood and steel overlooking the waves. The tyrant waited in his office, a pudgy figure in a garish suit, flanked by two bodyguards, Roku, a broad brute with a cleaver, and Kenta, a lean man with a spiked chain whip. Gato's sneer greeted him, voice sharp. You failed, useless trash, what's your excuse? Naruto stood silent, head bowed, letting the tongue-lashing wash over him, rage simmering beneath his skin. Then, with a slow exhale, he dropped the henge. Golden light faded, revealing Kratos, tall, scarred, ashen streaks stark against his flesh, blue eyes cold as the Leviathan axe at his side. Gato's smugness vanished, face paling as recognition hit. K. Kratos? He stammered, voice a squeak. The Ashen Demon? No, no, it can't be. Roku and Kenta froze, terror dawning. They knew the legend. The lone wolf who butchered rogue ninja, left organizations in ruin, a specter of gore and fire. Roku's cleaver trembled in his grip. Kenta's chain whip slipped an inch, clinking softly. Naruto's scream shattered the room. This is for your crimes, raw, guttural, Kratos' fury unleashed. He swung the Leviathan axe, frost arcing, and cleaved Roku's arm clean off, blood sprayed, a crimson fountain, the brute howling as he clutched the stump. Kenta lunged, chain whip lashing out, but Naruto sidestepped with Hermes' boots, axe spinning back to decapitate him, his head rolled, eyes wide, body twitching in a pool of red. Gato shrieked, scrambling back, mercy. I'll pay you double, triple. Naruto's glare silenced him, axe embedding in Gato's chest, ribs cracked, blood gushed, the tyrant gurgling as he slumped, lifeless. The door burst open, Gato's mercenaries, drawn by the commotion. Naruto turned, blades of chaos erupting, chains rattling like death's hymn. The first charged, katana raised, Naruto's blade wrapped his neck, yanking him into the wall, skull shattering in a wet crunch, brain splattering. Two more rushed, spears thrusting, Naruto spun, chains slashing, severing one's torso, guts spilling as the other's spear arm flew, blood jetting. A third hurled shuriken. Naruto ducked, bow of Apollo flashing, a fiery arrow piercing the man's eye, exploding his head in a gore-soaked burst. The rest faltered, but Naruto advanced. Nemesis whip cracking, its spikes snared a mercenary's leg, dragging him screaming, blades impaling his chest, blood pooling beneath. Another swung a mace. Naruto caught it with a chain, yanked it free, and crushed the man's throat with his boot, trachea popping. The last two turned to flee. Naruto hurled the Leviathan axe, frost slicing one's spine, the other felled by a whip lash that tore his face off, flesh peeling in a bloody mess. Silence fell, the room a slaughterhouse, bodies strewn, walls painted red. Gato's empire ended in a heartbeat. Naruto stood amidst the carnage, chest heaving, blood dripping from his weapons. Neither he nor Kurama knew the divine game unfolding, but the fox's voice rumbled, fierce and approving. "That's it, brat. Keep killing, they'll all fall eventually." Naruto wiped blood from his bald scalp, his gaze hard and unyielding, and walked into the night, a ghost of Sparta reborn, his legend growing darker, bloodier, the world trembling at his name. The land of waves laid behind him, a graveyard of blood and shattered lives, its misty shores fading into the horizon as Naruto Uzumaki, Kratos reborn, trudged onward. Gato's screams still rang in his ears, the tyrant's blood a stain on his hands, but the thrill of vengeance had dulled into a hollow ache. 4 years of slaughter had forged him into a specter of death, his frame hardened, scars crisscrossing his flesh, ashen streaks marking his Spartan soul. The Leviathan axe hung at his side, frost glinting faintly, a companion to the blades of chaos, bow of Apollo, and nemesis whip coiled within him. Yet as he walked, a strange pull tugged at his core, a whisper, not from Kurama, but something deeper, older, calling him across the sea. He couldn't name it, but it gnawed at him, a siren song amid the silence of his solitude. The ocean stretched before him, vast and treacherous, its waves churning with secrets. He stole a fisherman's boat, its wood creaking under his weight, and set out, guided by instinct alone. The whirlpools of Uzushio loomed ahead, legendary maelstroms that swallowed ships whole, their roar a course of nature's fury. Naruto gripped the oars, his arms burning as he fought the currents, water crashing over the bow, soaking his tattered cloak. A lesser man would have drowned, but his Uzumaki vitality and Kratos' relentless will drove him through. The boat splintered against a jagged rock, and he swam, clawing through the froth, until his boots sank into the muddy shore of a ruined island, Uzushiogakure, the lost village of the Uzumaki clan. The air hung heavy with decay, the ruins a skeleton of a once vibrant home, crumbled stone walls, shattered seals etched into the earth, seaweed clinging to broken pillars. Naruto's breath caught, a pang of something unnameable stirring as he stepped through the desolation. The wind carried faint whispers, and then a figure shimmered into being, a spirit, tall and regal, with long white hair and eyes like storm clouds. "I am Ashina Uzumaki," the spirit intoned, voice resonant with sorrow and strength, leader of this fallen clan. "You, child of our blood, have come home." Naruto froze, his fists clenching. "Home? I don't have a home." Ashina's gaze softened, but his words cut deep. "You are Uzumaki, born of a lineage of resilience and power. We were masters of seals, keepers of life's essence, until the 4 nations turned on us. Mist, sand, stone, and cloud united in fear and greed, annihilating Uzushio while our ally, Konoha, stood idle. They abandoned us to ruin, their promises dust in the wind." The spirit gestured, and ghostly images flickered, Uzumaki warriors falling to blades and jutsu, homes burning, children screaming as Kiri's water drowned them, Kumo's lightning raised their seals. Naruto's chest tightened, rage boiling anew. Kumo, Hana's killers, now his clan's murderers too, stoked a fire that had never dimmed. Konoha, his tormentors, who'd caged him in scorn, now revealed as betrayers of his blood, twisted the knife deeper. "They let you die," he rasped, voice trembling with fury. "They let me rot." Ashina nodded, grief etching his spectral face. "Our fate was sealed by their cowardice. But you, Naruto, carry our legacy." The ruins trembled, and more spirits rose, dozens, then hundreds, Uzumaki souls, their eyes gleaming with pride and pain. Ashina spoke again, firm but reluctant. "Your heart seeks vengeance, a path I cannot condone. Yet I will not deny you strength. Take our power, our life force, our sealing arts, our knowledge, and wield it as you will." The spirits surged forward, their essence flowing into Naruto like a tidal wave, warm, fierce, overwhelming. Seals burned into his mind, techniques of binding and breaking, their life force merging with his own, amplifying the Nine Tails chakra into a storm within. He staggered, gasping, as their voices whispered, "Avenge us, brother." "I'll destroy them," Naruto declared, voice a guttural vow, tears stinging his eyes, not of sorrow, but rage. Kiri, Suna, Iwa, Kumo, all of them. And Konoha last, so they see it coming. Ashina's spirit wavered, pained. "When your war ends, lay us to rest, child. Free us from this limbo." Naruto nodded, the weight of their trust a burden he'd carry into battle. "I will," he swore, turning from the ruins, the pull of vengeance now a roaring flame. Days later, as he sailed a salvaged raft toward Kiri, the air shimmered, and a new presence emerged. Hagoromo, the sage of the six paths, his form ethereal, staff in hand, eyes heavy with wisdom and sorrow. Naruto halted, raft rocking, as the sage's voice rolled like distant thunder. "Naruto, son of my legacy, turn back from this dark path. Hatred consumes you, it will leave only ashes." Kurama snarled within, defiant and raw. "Shut up, father. These humans deserve what's coming, treating the tailed beasts like pets, pawns, monsters. They'll choke on their own blood." Hagoromo's gaze shifted to the fox, sadness deepening. "I understand your pain, my son. They've bound you, feared you, and I failed to shield you from their cruelty. But this," he gestured to Naruto, "this vengeance will not heal you." Naruto's fists clenched, knuckles white. "Heal? I don't want healing, I want them to pay. Kumo killed Hana, murdered my clan. Konoha spat on me, abandoned Uzushio. They don't get mercy." His voice cracked, memories of Kiri, Ren, Saya, Tatsu flashing. Friends lost, graves piled high. Every time I care, they die. Every time I trust, they betray. I'm done. Hagoromo sighed, a sound like wind through dying leaves. Your hate mirrors my mother's, Kaguya's, a threat I cannot ignore. If you persist, I must act. In his mind, he resolved. Sasuke and the Senju heir must rise sooner than planned. This boy's wrath could unmake the world. Naruto spat into the sea, eyes blazing. Do what you want, old man. I'm not stopping. Hagoromo faded, his presence lingering like a storm's promise, and Kurama chuckled darkly. He's scared, brat. Good, let's give him something to fear. The raft drifted on, Kiri's misty shores looming, Naruto's heart a furnace of rage and resolve. He reached the outskirts of Kirigakure, the village shrouded in fog, its jagged cliffs a silent sentinel. Before he could step closer, the air rippled, water surging from the ground in a geyser that forced him back. A figure emerged, Sujin, the god of water, his form towering and fluid, a humanoid shape of shimmering blue, eyes glowing like twin springs. Serpentine tendrils writhed at his sides, snakes, eels, a Kappa's grin flashing, his presence a hymn of freshwater's might. A stone plaque hovered beside him, etched with ancient runes, pulsing with divine power. Naruto gripped the Leviathan axe, frost crackling, and snarled, "Get out of my way." Sujin's voice flowed, deep and resonant, a river's roar. "No, God Slayer. Your journey ends here." The title struck Naruto, God Slayer, a name he hadn't claimed, yet it fit, a mantle born of blood and ruin. Sujin raised a hand, water coiling into spears, his gaze unyielding. "The prophecy names you, Kratos reborn. I will not let you drown this world in chaos." Naruto's lips curled, a feral grin, the blades of chaos humming within. "Prophecy? I don't care what some god says. Kiri dies, then the rest. Move, or I'll cut you down too." Sujin's tendrils lashed, the ground trembling as springs erupted, and Naruto braced himself, the clash of mortal wrath and divine will poised to shatter the silence of the mist. The mist coiled thick around Naruto Uzumaki, as he stood on Kiri's misty outskirts, his bald scalp gleaming faintly with sweat, scars crisscrossing his hardened frame like a warrior's tapestry. Ashen streaks marked his skin, a testament to the Spartan soul within, and his arsenal pulsed with intent. The Leviathan axe in hand, frost shimmering, the blades of chaos humming dormant, the bow of Apollo and Nemesis whip coiled in his spirit. Before him loomed Sujin, the god of water, a towering figure of shimmering blue, his form fluid yet unyielding, eyes glowing like twin springs. Serpentine tendrils, snakes, eels, a Capus grin flashing, writhed at his sides, and a stone plaque etched with runes hovered beside him, radiating divine power. Naruto's lips curled into a feral grin, blue eyes blazing with defiance. Prophecy? I don't care what some god says. Kiri dies, then the rest. Move, or I'll cut you down too. Sujin's tendrils lashed out, the ground trembling as springs erupted in geysers of frothing white, and Naruto braced himself, the clash of mortal wrath and divine will shattering the silence of the mist. Sujin's voice rolled like a river's roar, deep and commanding. Foolish mortal, your hubris ends here. His hand rose, his hydrogenesis surged. Water burst from the air itself, a torrent crashing toward Naruto like a tsunami's fist. The Leviathan axe spun in his grip, frost whipping into a whirlwind that met the wave head-on. Ice shards clashed with water, spraying mist in a chaotic dance. Naruto darted forward, Hermes' boots flaring golden at his heels, boosting him into a blur. The axe slashed downward, frost trailing, aimed at Sujin's chest. The god's Logia-like invulnerability shimmered. Naruto's axe phased through, water rippling harmlessly, and Sujin countered with a flick of his tendrils. Two serpentine appendages lashed out, snapping like whips, one coiled around Naruto's arm, the other aimed for his throat. He twisted, ducking the chokehold, and yanked the Leviathan axe back, severing the tendril with a burst of ice. Blue liquid splattered, reforming instantly. "Tch, slippery bastard," Naruto growled, boots skidding as he leapt back. Sujin's eyes flared, utilizing his temperature control, erupted, the ground beneath Naruto froze into ice, spikes jutting upward to impale him. Hermes' boots propelled him skyward, narrowly dodging, but Sujin shifted the ice to steam in a heartbeat. A boiling geyser blasted upward, searing Naruto's leg. He snarled, pain fueling his rage empowerment, and hurled the Leviathan axe. It spun like a frozen comet, frost trailing, crashing into Sujin's form. The god dispersed into mist, reforming yards away, unscathed, tendrils writhing. "Pathetic," Sujin intoned, raising both hands. His aquatic dominion roared to life. Water coalesced into a legion of serpentine beasts, their jaws snapping, eyes glowing. A massive water dragon lunged, jaws wide. Naruto's blades of chaos erupted, chains rattling like a war hymn. He swung wide, fiery arcs slashing through the dragon, steam hissing as it dissolved, but two more flanked him, tails whipping. He spun, chains lashing, one wrapped a beast's neck, yanking it into the other, both bursting into droplets. Yet Sujin's legion grew, dozens forming from the mist. Naruto's grin widened, feral and fierce. "More toys, huh?" He charged, blades whirling, Hermes' boots boosting him through the horde, chains sliced, fire burned, water sprayed in gory bursts. Sujin's tendrils struck again, faster now, one slamming Naruto's chest, hurling him back 10 yards into a boulder. Rock cracked, his ribs groaned. He spat out blood, rising, his regeneration kicking in. Sujin's plaque pulsed, the air thickened, water pressure spiking to crush Naruto's bones. His knees buckled, axe trembling in his grip. Kurama's voice snarled within, "Get up, brat." Red chakra flared, a crimson aura pushing back the force, and Naruto roared. Hurling the Leviathan axe skyward, it slammed down, frost exploding in a radial blast, shattering the pressure zone, ice shards raining. Water pooled beneath Naruto's feet erupted, a portal forming as the god vanished, reappearing behind him in an instant. A tendril lashed, coiling his leg. Naruto swung a blade of chaos, fire searing it off, but Sujin's temperature control flash boiled the mist into a scalding cloud. Naruto shielded his face, boots skidding him. He recalled the Leviathan axe, a massive frost wave erupted, freezing the steam into a crystalline haze, buying him a breath. The god loomed closer, tendrils snapping, and unleashed oceanic gravity control. The ground beneath Naruto inverted, water rising like a floating island, dragging him upward into a swirling vortex. His boots flared, fighting the pull, but Sujin tightened the gravity well, water crushing inward like an abyss. Naruto's chest heaved, ribs creaking, and Kurama's chakras surged hotter. His rage increased, eyes glowing red, muscles bulging. He roared, swinging the blades, chains slashing the vortex, fire met water, steam exploding, and he broke free, landing in a crouch, panting. Sujin's voice thundered, "You cannot defy a god." Divine purification pulsed from his plaque, water shimmered, cleansing Kurama's red chakra from Naruto's aura, weakening his boost. Naruto snarled, feeling the drain, and countered with the Nemesis whip, its spiked length uncoiled, crackling with electricity, lashing Sujin's form. The god flinched, water sizzling as shocks disrupted his fluidity. Naruto pressed, whip snaring a tendril, yanking hard, pulling Sujin off balance. The battlefield trembled, mist thickened, water churned, ice and fire clashed in a symphony of chaos. Sujin's plaque glowed brighter, the water deity's wrath stirred, primordial rain descended, a torrential storm hammering down, winds howling, waves rising. Naruto ducked a crashing wave, boots slipping, and hurled the Leviathan axe. It smashed the ground, frost erupting upward, countering the flood with a frozen wall. But Sujin's tendrils multiplied, 6 now, lashing from all angles. One struck his back, another his arm, a third coiling his throat, lifting him off the ground. Naruto choked, vision blurring, blood dripped from his mouth, but his indomitable will burned brighter. The blades of chaos flared, chains wrapping the tendrils. He yanked, fire searing, severing too, but Sujin tightened the grip, water pressure spiking. "Die, God Slayer," Sujin intoned, plaque pulsing as a black hole whirlpool formed beneath Naruto, a swirling abyss of water, pulling him downward, gravity crushing, tendrils tightening. Inside, Kurama roared, "Not yet, brat." Red chakra exploded, igniting fully. Naruto's body surged, muscles rippling, eyes blazing crimson. He swung the blades, fire cutting the tendrils. Sujin recoiled, water splashing, and Naruto fell into the whirlpool, vanishing into its depths as the storm raged overhead. Sujin loomed, tendrils poised, plaque glowing, the mist silent save for the roar of water, a cliffhanger poised on the edge of doom. The Mizukage's dread. Miles away, within Kirigakure's shadowed heart, the village's Enbu knelt before Yagura, the fourth Mizukage, in his office. The tyrant's youthful face belied his cruelty, eyes cold as the sea, his staff in hand. 2 Anbu, masks cracked from haste, bowed low, their voices trembling yet urgent. Lord Mizukage, the first rasped, "We've sighted a battle, miles from the village, near the cliffs. A warrior, bald and scarred, wields weapons of fire and ice, fighting something divine." The second cut in, breathless, "It's Sujin-sama, sir, our god of water, from the legends. Tendrils, water rising like a storm, it's him, no doubt. The warrior, he matches tales of the ashen demon, Kratos." Yagura's grip tightened on his staff, eyes narrowing. "Kratos, here?" His mind raced, the ashen demon, scourge of rogues, a name whispered in fear. Why the land of water? Up to no good, if Sujin-sama himself intervenes. He leaned forward, voice a low hiss. "In our tales, gods send emissaries, never themselves. For Sujin to act directly, this Kratos is no mere mortal. He's a threat, a significant one." The Anbu nodded, the first speaking again. "The battle rages, fire clashes with water, the cliffs quake. If he defeats Sujin..." Yagura silenced him with a glare, rising, staff tapping the floor. "If he defeats our god, Kiri's next, I feel it. Strengthen the defenses. Watch the cliffs. This demon will not take us unawares." The Anbu bowed, vanishing, leaving Yagura staring at the ceiling, unease gnawing at his tyrant's heart. What manner of monster dares challenge a god? The black hole whirlpool roared, a churning abyss of divine wrath, its depths swallowing light and hope, where Naruto had vanished moments ago. Sujin towered above, a shimmering colossus of water, tendrils swaying like vipers primed to strike, his rune-etched plaque pulsing with ominous glow. The primordial rain pounded the cliffs into a shattered, sodden wasteland, mist thickening into a suffocating shroud, until a crimson flare ruptured the dark. Naruto exploded from the whirlpool's maw, Spartan rage ablaze, muscles bulged grotesquely, veins throbbing with Kurama's chakra, the Leviathan axe clutched in one scarred fist, blades of chaos unfurling in the other. Water sprayed in violent arcs as his boots slammed the earth, cracking stone to dust, his bloodshot eyes locking onto Sujin with a predator's murderous glee. Naruto's roar tore through the storm, guttural and savage. As he charged, Hermes' boots ignited, golden streaks slashing the mist. Sujin's tendrils snapped like thunderclaps, 4 serpentine limbs lunging, 2 aimed for his throat, 2 for his legs. Naruto spun the Leviathan axe, frost shards erupting in a lethal spray, ice blue blood splattered as 2 tendrils severed, writhing like dying snakes. But Sujin's hydrogenesis retaliated instantly. A massive water dragon surged from the mist, jaws gaping, scales glinting. Naruto leapt, superhuman agility. Blades of chaos whirling. Fire of Ares, chains coiled its neck, fire searing flesh to steam, and he yanked with bone-crushing force, smashing it into the ground. Water exploded, drenching him, his feral grin unshaken. Sujin's plaque flared, and oceanic gravity control warped reality. Water rose in jagged, floating islands, gravity twisting into a relentless pull, dragging Naruto skyward. He fought it, boots blazing trails of gold, and hurled the Leviathan axe. It spun in a wide, frost-laced arc, slashing islands to shards, recalling to his hand with a shuddering thud. Sujin's pressure manipulation struck back. A wave of abyssal force slammed Naruto midair, ribs snapping audibly, hurling him into a cliff face. Stone detonated, dust choking the air, blood streaming from his bald scalp, yet his regeneration flared, bones grinding back into place, crimson spittle flying as he rose, snarling, "That all you got? Enough games." Naruto bellowed, nemesis whip uncoiling. Its spiked length crackled with electric fury, lashing Sujin's fluid arm. Water hissed, steam rising as the god recoiled, but temperature control turned the tide. The whip's sparks froze into brittle ice, shattering in a glittering burst. Naruto's instincts kicked in, whip reformed in a heartbeat, snaring Sujin's plaque with a vicious yank. The stone tore free, Sujin's roar shaking the cliffs as his power wavered, tendrils thrashing in wild arcs. 2 struck Naruto's chest, slamming him back, blood spraying from his lips. Sujin's form rippled, aquatic dominion summoning a nightmare, a kraken of water, tentacles thicker than oaks, eyes blazing, maw dripping with froth. It lunged, a tentacle smashing Naruto into the earth, ground buckled, ribs groaned anew, his durability faltering, but Spartan rage burned hotter, red chakra flaring like a furnace. He rolled, blades lashing, chains wrapped the kraken's arms, fire scorching, tearing them apart in a scalding spray of steam that scorched his own skin. The bow of Apollo flashed, a fiery arrow screamed forth, piercing the beast's eye. Its head exploded in a gore-soaked fireball, mist swallowing its collapse. But Sujin's tendrils struck again, one coiling his throat, lifting him off the ground. Sujin advanced, spiritual absorption pulsing, water tendrils stabbed into Naruto's chest, piercing flesh, draining blood and chakra in a sickening pull. Pain seared like molten steel, vision swimming, his heartbeat faltering, but indomitable will roared defiance. Kurama's voice thundered, "You're mine, not his." Red chakra erupted, shoving back the drain, and Naruto swung the Leviathan axe. A frost wave blasted outward, freezing the tendrils into brittle pillars, shattering them with a guttural yell. He leapt, axe slashing, frost bit Sujin's core, ice spider webbing across his fluid form, slowing his relentless flow. The god's plaque flickered, reclaimed by a tendril, and water deity's wrath erupted. Ryujin's draconic tide unleashed a horde of water dragons, scales shimmering like blades, claws raking the air. Naruto ducked one snapping jaws, chains slashing another, steam billowed, scalding his arms, but a third crashed into him, hurling him into the sea. Water closed over, pressure manipulation crushing down, lungs burned, bones creaked, until a memory of Kratos defying Poseidon flared. Poseidon's trident materialized, glowing blue. Naruto swam, trident piercing the dragon's underbelly, bursting it apart in a violent surge, blood and water mixing as he clawed to the surface. He erupted from the waves, trident in one hand, axe in the other, Hermes' boots flaring as he vaulted onto a jagged cliff. Sujin loomed, plaque blazing, and unleashed divine corruption. Cursed water flooded the battlefield, a black tide clawing at Naruto's soul, whispering despair and death. His instincts kicked in, he hurled the nemesis whip, electrifying the tide in a crackling storm, disrupting the curse. Sujin flinched, water sparking violently. Naruto charged through the chaos, Leviathan axe spinning, frost erupted upward in a deafening roar, freezing Sujin's legs solid, anchoring the god's fluid form to the earth. Sujin's tendrils multiplied, 6 now, lashing with divine fury. 2 wrapped Naruto's arms, 1 his legs, 1 his throat, crushing tighter, blood vessels bursting in his eyes. He roared, Spartan rage peaking, muscles tore free of the binds, chains swinging, fire-cutting tendrils in a spray of boiling ichor, axe slashing, through another, ice and blood mingled, staining the cliffs red. Sujin countered with black hole whirlpool, stronger, darker, Naruto slid toward it, boots skidding, clawing at stone, but Poseidon's trident glowed brighter. He stabbed it into the ground, water parting in a defiant scream, defying the pull as the vortex howled inches away. Sujin's eyes widened. Impossible. Naruto's grin was feral, blood-streaked, and he launched skyward, a whirlwind of death. Blades of chaos whirled. Fire of Ares. Nemesis whip cracked. Leviathan axe spun. The combo struck like a tempest. Chains wrapped Sujin's arms, fire searing into his fluid flesh. Whip snared the plaque, electricity surging through its runes, cracking stone. Axe slammed his chest, frost exploding in a bone-shattering blast. Sujin's roar shook the heavens, form fracturing, water sprayed in violent torrents, plaque splintering, and Naruto yanked the blades, chains tearing through the god's core like a butcher's cleaver. A final, anguished scream ripped from Sujin as his form dissolved. Water crashed in a tidal wave, sweeping cliffs into ruin, the plaque shattering into dust that glittered briefly before fading. Naruto landed hard, boots cracking the earth, chest heaving, blood dripped from his mouth, his arms, his torn flesh, weapons retracting with a shudder. Trident clutched tight, frost fading from the axe, fire dimming on the chains. The mist cleared, the battlefield a silent graveyard of waves and rubble, the air heavy with the stench of blood and salt. Naruto staggered, Spartan rage guttering out, red chakra flickered, then died. Kurama's growl rumbled, fierce but fading. One god down, brat, keep going. He clutched Poseidon's trident, its power pulsing, atmokinesis stirred within, a storm's whisper in his veins. A gift rested from the fallen god. His eyes, bloodshot and wild, fixed on Kiri's distant spires through the haze. You're next, he rasped, voice a broken vow, each word a struggle, blood bubbling on his lips. His knees buckled, his body finally caved in, ribs screaming, lungs seizing, blood pooled beneath him, staining the stone red. The trident slipped from his grasp, clattering beside him as his vision blurred, darkness clawed at the edges, exhaustion and wounds overwhelming even his regenerative healing. Not yet, he gasped, fist slamming the ground, but his body betrayed him. He collapsed, face first into the dirt, unconscious, breath shallow, pulse faint, the ashen demon's legend teetering on the edge of oblivion amidst the wreckage of a god's demise. Naruto's world flickered back into focus, a haze of pain and exhaustion giving way to the dim glow of a lantern. His body ached, a map of bruises and scars screaming beneath bandages, ribs throbbed, lungs rasped, blood crusted his bald scalp. He lay in a bed, coarse sheets scratching his skin, the air thick with salt and damp stone. His weapons, the Leviathan axe, blades of chaos, Nemesis whip, Poseidon's trident, hummed faintly within, dormant but alive. His eyes, bloodshot and weary, darted to a figure by the bedside. A woman, tall and striking, auburn hair cascading over one eye. Her gaze sharp yet warm, lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. Maid Terumi stared at him, arms crossed, her presence commanding yet oddly gentle. Naruto shifted, muscles tensing to rise, pain lanced through him, but he pushed anyway. Mei's hand shot out, firm yet careful, pressing him back to the bed. Rest, hero, she said, voice smooth as silk but edged with steel. You're in no shape to play the warrior just yet. Naruto scowled, shoving down a groan. Who are you? His tone was gruff, suspicion lacing every syllable, blue eyes narrowing. Maid tilted her head, smile widening, a mix of charm and quiet authority. Maid Terumi, leader of Kiri's rebel forces. And you, I presume, are the ashen demon everyone's whispering about. Rebels? Naruto's brow furrowed, ignoring the nickname, she'd get no reaction from him there. Mei sat on the bed's edge, her demeanor shifting to something earnest, her voice dropping low. Kiri's a mess under Yagura's boot. He's a tyrant, madness rules him, and the village drowns in it. Bloodlines hunted, families torn apart, fear choking the streets. I'm fighting to save it, to restore peace. And for that, her eyes locked onto his, fierce and imploring. I need you. Naruto stared blankly, unreadable, his face a mask of stone, hiding the vow simmering within. Kiri burns, no exceptions. Mei pressed on, undeterred by his silence. I saw you fight Sujin-sama. A sight to behold, the ashen demon slaying a god. Fire, ice, lightning, you're a force of nature. Her tone carried awe, but Naruto didn't flinch, his nickname a hollow echo to him now. He exhaled, voice flat. I don't care about your war. Or Kiri. The lie burned, his desire to raise the village stayed buried, a dark ember in his chest. Mei arched a brow, then chuckled, a melodic sound, tinged with mischief. Not even after I patched you up? Kept you from bleeding out on that cliff? Naruto stayed silent, jaw tight. She rose, brushing her hair back with a playful smirk. Stubborn. I like that. With a sway of her hips, she left the room, leaving the air lighter yet heavier all at once. Days bled into a haze in the rebel hideout. A cramped warren of stone tunnels beneath Kiri's cliffs, damp with sea air, flickering with torchlight. Naruto's wounds mended slowly, his regeneration weaving flesh together, though exhaustion lingered like a weight. Rebels trickled in, wide-eyed and whispering. Some gawked at the ashen demon, others shrank from his glare. A predator's stare that silenced their chatter. Mei visited often, her presence a constant, checking bandages, bringing food, making conversation with a mix of sass and sincerity. You're tougher than you look, she'd tease, or, ever think of smiling? Might scare fewer kids. Naruto grunted, but her warmth chipped at his walls, unbidden and unwanted. One evening, Ao, Mei's right-hand man, a grizzled shinobi with a stern face and a bandaged eye, entered, his tone clipped. This Kratos, he's dangerous. If he recovers fully, what's to stop him turning on us? He's a wild beast, Mei. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, unfazed. Exactly why he's valuable, Ao. A beast like that could tear Yagura apart. We need him. Ao scowled but said no more, leaving Naruto to eat in silence. They don't know I killed their god. Despite himself, Naruto felt a pull toward Mei, a flicker of fondness he hated. Her fire, her resolve, her refusal to cower. It stirred echoes of Hana, of Kiri's laughter, of a boy who once cared. A part of him, a quiet, buried shard, whispered not to destroy Kiri, not for her sake. He crushed it down, but it lingered, a crack in his armor he couldn't seal. The fragile piece shattered on the fifth night. Alarms rang through the tunnels, shouts, steel clashing, the roar of jutsu. Yagura's forces had found them. Mei burst in, eyes blazing, grabbing Naruto's arm. Move, now. He staggered up, pain spiking, but Hu's superhuman stamina held, his weapons pulsed within, ready. Rebels scrambled, some falling to kunai and water jutsu as Mei led the retreat, dragging Naruto through twisting corridors, her men covering their backs. Explosions rocked the hideout, stone crumbled, dust choked the air, but they broke free, emerging into a misty ravine. Yagura's shinobi in pursuit. Ao, bloodied but alive, caught up, panting. How'd they find us? His question hung, unanswered, until it wasn't. Shadows shifted among the rebels and turned, blades flashing, traitors, a sudden storm of betrayal cutting down their own. A young rebel fell, throat slit, blood pooling. Another screamed as a kunai pierced her chest. A third crumpled under a water whip's lash. Ao's voice cracked. How could you betray us? The lead traitor, a wiry man with hollow eyes, sneered, tired of hiding. Ao. Yagura promised us freedom. Chaos erupted. Ao drew his blade, deflecting a traitor's strike. Steel sang. Sparks flew, as two more charged him, kunai slashing. Mei's hands blurred, lava release surging. A molten stream melted one traitor's torso, his scream a wet gurgle as he collapsed, flesh sizzling into a puddle. Naruto, still injured, gripped the Leviathan axe, frost arced, cleaving a traitor's arm, blood freezing mid-spray, the man howling as he fell. Three traitors circled Ao, one's water jutsu slammed him back, another's kunai grazed his arm, but he countered, blade piercing a chest, blood spraying. Mei dodged a traitor's sword, her boil release erupting, a scalding mist engulfed two, their skin blistering, screams choking as they dropped, clawing at melted faces. Naruto's Hermes boots flared, a golden blur. He tackled a traitor mid-lunge, axe burying into his gut. Frost exploded, entrails icing over as the body hit the dirt. One traitor, a woman, hurled a barrage of shuriken at Mei. Naruto swung the axe, a frost whirlwind shredding the metal, but another traitor closed in, kunai gleaming, aimed at Mei's back. Naruto shoved her aside, but another traitor's hands crackled, a lightning jutsu roaring forth towards Mei. Unnaturally amplified. Unknown to all. A god's unseen hand spiked its power into a blinding lance. Naruto threw himself in front, body straining as the bolt pierced his chest, flesh charred, bone shattered, blood gushed in a crimson torrent. The ray didn't stop, its edge slashed Mei's side, tearing through her ribs, her cries sharp as she fell. Naruto's knees buckled, blood soaked his tattered cloak, pooling beneath him. He collapsed, catching Mei as she crumpled, her breath shallow, eyes wide with shock. "No," he rasped, holding her limp form, her auburn hair matted with red, her warmth fading. Just when he'd begun to care again, loss ripped through him once more. Hana, Kiri, Ren, Saya, Tatsu, now Mei, a litany of graves. Rage ignited, deeper, darker, a Spartan rage unlike any before, a berserk inferno swallowing his soul. Red chakra erupted, a molten storm, his eyes glowed crimson, veins pulsing, muscles tearing beyond human limits. He roared, a primal scream that shattered the ravine's silence, and charged, blades of chaos unfurled, chains whirling like a reaper's scythe. The lightning user fired again, Naruto ducked, chains wrapping his arm, yanking, fire seared, flesh melted, the arm tore free in a spray of gore. The man screamed, dying as a second chain split his skull, brains splattering the stone. Ao lunged to help, blade raised, but Naruto's rage knew no allies. The blades lashed, wrapping Ao's chest, fire burned, ribs cracked, and Naruto yanked, hurling him into a boulder. Stone shattered, Ao's body crumpled, lifeless, blood pooling beneath. The remaining traitors, 6 now, froze, terror dawning. One bolted, but Naruto's nemesis whip cracked, spikes snared his leg, electricity surging, frying him from the inside. His body convulsed, smoking as he fell. Another hurled a water jutsu, Naruto's Leviathan axe spun, frost slashing it apart, axe burying into his chest, ice exploded, guts sprayed, the corpse toppling in a frozen heap. 2 traitors attacked together, blade and a wind jutsu slashing, Naruto's Hermes boots blurred, dodging, blades swinging, chains wrapped one's neck, snapping it with a wet crunch, fire searing the other's face into a charred ruin. The 5th lunged with a sword, Naruto caught it with the whip, yanking it free, then drove the Leviathan axe into his torso, frost erupted, splitting him in half, blood and ice raining. The last traitor, a woman, screamed, hurling a desperate fireball. Naruto's bow of Apollo flashed, a fiery arrow piercing her heart, exploding her chest in a bloody burst. Naruto stood amidst the carnage, blood dripping from his wounds, his weapons, his hands, breath ragged, chest heaving. Mei lay still in the dirt, her side torn, blood seeping, alive, barely, her pulse faint beneath his trembling fingers. The rage flickered, then guttered, Spartan rage drained, leaving only pain, loss, and a hollow void. Not again, he choked, voice breaking, tears mixed with blood, tracing rivers through the ash on his face. His strength faltered, regeneration stalled, the lightning wound too deep, too fatal, his vision darkened, knees gave, and he slumped beside Mei, hand clutching hers as consciousness fled. The ravine fell silent, a tableau of death and despair, the ashen demon's wrath extinguished, for now, teetering on the edge of oblivion. 2 days had passed since the ravine's bloodbath, a blur of darkness and pain. Naruto's unconscious form sprawled beside Mei's fading warmth. His body a wreckage of wounds, chest pierced, ribs cracked, blood caked across his bald scalp and ashen-streaked skin. Mei was gone, taken by rebels or Yagura's forces, he didn't know, and the silence gnawed at him, her fate a fresh scar on his soul. But something else stirred within, a pulse of power, cold and vast, thrumming alongside Kurama's fiery chakra. He staggered to his feet, dragging himself upright despite the agony, and stumbled to a tide pool reflecting the dawn. Water shimmered and instinctively guided his hand. He plunged it into the pool, and divine purification flared. Water glowed, pure and radiant, surging up his arm. It washed through him, cleansing the lightning wound's charred flesh, bones knitted, skin sealed, blood flushed clean. His breath steadied, regeneration amplified by the divine surge, leaving him whole, stronger, his god physiology deepening as Sujin's essence fused with his own. Kurama rumbled, "You've stolen a god's tricks, brat. Use him to drown this place down." Naruto's eyes hardened, blue turning to steel. Mei's face flickered, her warmth, her plea to save Kiri, but the echoes of Uzushio drowned it out. Ashina's voice, "They annihilated us. Kiri, Suna, Iwa, Kumo. The four nations hadn't spared the innocent, women, children, elders, all slaughtered. Kiri would pay first." He gripped the Leviathan axe, frost crackling, and marched toward the village, a one-man storm of vengeance, his war begun. Kirigakure loomed through the mist, its jagged spires and waterlogged streets a fortress of shadow. Naruto approached the outer gates. Two guards, clad in flak jackets, spears in hand, spotted him, shouting, "Halt!" Statyer, he didn't let them finish. Hermes' boots flared, a golden blur, blades of chaos erupted, chains slashing wide. One guard's spear snapped, his chest cleaved in a fiery arc, blood sprayed, body crumpling. The other thrust, but Naruto's axe spun, frost bit, freezing the spear mid-strike, shattering it, then buried into the man's skull, ice exploding in a crimson mist. The gates creaked open, and Naruto stepped through, a specter of death. Ninja swarmed, 10 at first, a mix of Chunin and Jonin, kunai flashing, water jutsu surging. Naruto's hydrogenesis answered. A flick of his hand summoned a torrent from the air, crashing into three, hurling them into a wall. Bones snapped, screams cut short. Two charged, swords drawn, blades whirled, wrapping one's neck, yanking, fire seared, head tore free, rolling in the mud. The other swung, but Naruto's nemesis whip crackled, spikes snared the blade, electricity surging, frying the ninja's arm to a charred husk, his body collapsing in convulsions. A water dragon roared from a Jonin's hands. Naruto's Leviathan axe met it, frost whirlwind shredding the beast, axe returning to cleave the caster's chest, ice and guts sprayed. Four more attacked, shuriken rained, a wind jutsu sliced, Naruto dodged, Hermes' boots blurring him aside, and he countered with the bow of Apollo. Fiery arrows pierced two, exploding heads in gore-soaked bursts. The last two unleashed a combined water wall. Naruto's pressure manipulation spiked it to abyssal force, crushing them against their own jutsu, blood oozing from flattened corpses. He tore deeper into Kiri, a relentless tide. Buildings fell, wooden homes splintering under immeasurable strength as he swung the blades, stone towers cracking from Hyperion Slam's frost eruptions. Screams echoed, ninja, civilians, no distinction now. The echoes of Uzushio rang louder. Ghostly images of Uzumaki children cut down by Kiri blades, women drowned in water jutsu, elders burned by lightning. He steeled himself, women fled with infants, men begged, but his vow was iron. The Leviathan axe spun, frost slashing through a market street, bodies froze mid-flight, shattering into bloody ice. The nemesis whip lashed, snaring a fleeing mother, electricity surged, her child's wail silenced as both fried, smoke rising from charred remains. A squad of 15 ninja rallied, elites, masks glinting, water and wind jutsu weaving a storm. Naruto's hydrokinetic omnipresence flared. He sensed every drop, every puddle, and aquatic dominion summoned water serpents from the streets, snapping jaws tearing two ninjas apart, blood mixing with mud. A wind blade slashed, Naruto's Logia-like invulnerability shimmered, body dispersing into mist. Reforming behind, the blades swung, chains bisecting the attacker, guts spilling. 5 charged with spears. Naruto's oceanic gravity control inverted the battlefield, water rising, they flailed, airborne, and he leapt, axe slashing. A frost wave froze them solid, crashing down in shards. The remaining 8 unleashed a barrage, water whips, lightning bolts, a fire dragon roaring. Naruto's temperature control flash froze the whips, shattering them, then vaporized the fire into steam, blinding the ninja. He blurred through, blades lashing, one's throat burned open, another's legs severed. The nemesis whip snared a third, pulling him into an axe swing. Frost exploded, torso splitting. A lightning bolt grazed his arm, his defenses held, skin blistering, and he countered with spiritual absorption, tendrils of water stabbing their chests, draining chakra. 3 fell, shriveled husks, eyes hollow. The last 2 screamed, water jutsu surging. Naruto's pressure manipulation crushed it back, their bodies imploding under abyssal force, blood painting the wreckage. Buildings toppled, market stalls, homes, a temple. Naruto's wrath of the tide unleashed primordial rain, a torrential storm hammering Kiri into ruin, streets flooding, bodies floating. He waded through, axe dripping, chains rattling, hundreds dead, the village a graveyard, yet his war wasn't done. A shadow loomed ahead, cutting through the mist. Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, coral staff in hand. His youthful face twisted with cold resolve, eyes glinting with Obito's unseen influence. Yagura stopped, taking in the devastation, corpses strewn, buildings razed, blood pooling in the rain-slick streets. His voice cut through the storm, sharp and demanding. "What's your grudge with Kiri, boy? And what happened to Sujin?" His tone held no fear, only a tyrant's curiosity, his grip tightening on his staff. Naruto faced him, chest heaving, blood and water dripping from his scars, Leviathan axe in one hand, Poseidon's trident in the other, blades coiled within. His voice rasped, raw with hate. "I'm in Uzumaki. Your village, Kiri, Suna, Iwa, Kumo, slaughtered my clan. Women, children, all of him. I swore to annihilate the 5 nations, starting here. Sujin? I killed him, tore him apart with my hands." His grin was feral, eyes blazing, rage empowerment simmering, ready to erupt. Yagura's gaze darkened, mind clouded by Obito's genjutsu yet sharp with purpose. "And Uzumaki?" he muttered, then straightened, staff glowing faintly with chakra. "Sujin's death or not, this is my village. I'll defend it, even from you." His stance shifted, water swirling at his feet, a tyrant's resolve meeting a god-slayer's wrath, the clash poised to ignite, Kiri's fate hanging in the balance. Kirigakure lay in ruins, a smoldering graveyard of shattered stone and blood-soaked streets, the air thick with mist and the stench of death. Naruto Uzumaki stood amidst the carnage, his bald scalp glistening with sweat and gore, ashen streaks stark against his scarred flesh. The Leviathan axe gleamed in his right hand, frost crackling along its edge, while Poseidon's trident pulsed faintly in his left. Blades of chaos and nemesis whip hummed within, eager for more blood. His blue eyes burned with unyielding rage, fixed on the figure before him, Yagura Karatachi, 4th Mizukage, coral staff in hand, his youthful face a mask of cold resolve despite Obito's unseen sway. Yagura's voice sliced through the storm, sharp and unyielding. "And Uzumaki, Sujin's death at your hands changes nothing. This is my village, I'll defend it to my last breath." Water swirled at his feet, his staff glowing with chakra, and Naruto's feral grin widened, rage empowerment simmering, a storm ready to break. "Defend it? I'll bury it," he snarled, boots cracking the earth as he charged, Hermes' boots flaring golden. Yagura met him head-on, club swinging, shadow stroke unleashed a crescent wave of water laced with coral shards, slashing toward Naruto's chest. The Leviathan axe spun, frost whipped into a whirlwind, shredding the wave, coral fragments scattering like brittle glass. Naruto closed the gap, axe slashing downward. Yagura parried with his club, hooks catching the blade, sparks flying as his club held firm. The Mizukage twisted, thrusting the staff's larger end. A green flower bloomed with chakra, releasing a concussive burst that hurled Naruto back 10 yards, skidding through mud. Naruto growled, rising, shrugging off the impact, ribs ached, but his regeneration flared, knitting bruises beneath scars. Yagura advanced, hands blurring, water release, water mirror technique summoned a shimmering pool before him. Naruto hurled the Leviathan axe it spun, frost trailing like a comet, but the mirror rotated 90 degrees. A perfect reflection of the axe materialized, meeting its twin midair, ice clashed, shattering both in a spray of frost, the original recalling to Naruto's hand with a thud. TCH, tricks, Naruto spat, boots flaring again, He darted left, then right, blades of chaos erupting, chains lashed in fiery arcs, aiming to wrap Yagura's arms. The Mizukage ducked, club spinning, deflecting one chain with a clang. Sparks showered, but the second snared his leg. Naruto yanked, pulling Yagura off balance, fire searing flesh. Yagura grunted, chakra flaring, coral palm pulsed from his free hand, coral sprouting along the chain, racing toward Naruto's grip. He released it, leaping back as coral hardened, snapping the chain's momentum. Yagura rose, coral crumbling away, and slammed his club into the ground. Coral reef barrage erupted, jagged spikes bursting in a wide radius, water currents hurling them like spears. Naruto dodged, Hermes' boots blurring him through the storm. Spikes grazed his arm, blood trickling, but he countered with the Nemesis whip. Spikes cracked with electricity, lashing Yagura's shoulder. Sparks danced, water sizzling as the Mizukage flinched, his club parrying the whip's tip with a deft spin. "You're strong," Yagura said, voice steady but not enough. His hands flashed, wind release, passing typhoon roared forth, a gust dispelling the mist and slamming Naruto back, boots skidding. The Mizukage leapt, club overhead, leaping bullet shell tower surged, a spiraling coral tower rocketing upward, spikes launching midair. Naruto rolled, coral piercing the ground where he'd stood, stone shattered, shards flying, but one spike grazed his thigh, blood seeping as he snarled. Naruto charged, axe spinning, frost slashed wide, clashing with the tower's base, ice exploding as coral crumbled. Yagura met him mid-strike, club hooking the axe, a furious exchange, hooks caught, blades scraped, strength tested. Naruto's Spartan rage flickered, eyes glowing red, he roared, shoving forward, forcing Yagura back. The Mizukage countered, coral pulsing from his club, coral sprouted on Naruto's axe, creeping toward his arm. He dropped it, recalling it midair, frost shattering the growth. Yagura pressed, tidal coral surge unleashing. A massive wave crashed forward, coral fragments glinting like blades. Naruto's blades whirled, chains slashed, fire meeting water, steam hissing as coral shards melted mid-flight, but the tide's force slammed him, hurling him into a ruined wall. Stone cracked, ribs groaned, blood dripping from his lip, his regeneration flared. Not done, he rasped, rising, Poseidon's trident thrusting. Yagura parried, coral blooming on the trident's prongs, forcing Naruto to yank it free. The Mizukage's eyes narrowed, chakra darkened, red-black tendrils seeping from his form. "You've forced my hand," he intoned, voice deepening as version 2 erupted. A cloak of near-black chakra enveloped him, brown-red fur sprouting, Isobu's power surging. Naruto grinned, feral, Spartan rage ignited, muscles bulging, red chakra flaring to match. The battlefield trembled, two titans poised. Yagura blurred forward, speed enhanced, club swinging, coral palm pulsed wider, coral erupting across the ground, snaring Naruto's boots. He tore free. Blades lashing, chains wrapped Yagura's arm, fire searing, but coral grew along them, hardening, slowing the burn. Yagura yanked back, coral shattering, and unleashed shadow stroke. A larger, faster wave slashed, coral shards embedding in Naruto's shoulder, blood flowed, his durability holding as he roared, axe swinging, frost erupted upward, clashing with the wave, ice and coral sprayed, a chaotic storm. Yagura's hands glowed, tailed beast ball, formed, a condensed orb of chakra, crackling with menace. He fired, Naruto dodged, the ball detonating behind him, leveling a street in a fiery blast, shrapnel grazed his back. Naruto countered, Nemesis whip cracking, spikes snared Yagura's leg, electricity surging, but version 2's cloak absorbed it, coral sprouting to sever the whip's grip. Yagura charged, club overhead, leaping bullet shell tower roared, a coral spiral launching spikes like a cannon. Naruto's bow of Apollo flashed, fiery arrows pierced spikes midair, exploding them, but Yagura closed in, club slamming Naruto's chest, hooks tore flesh, blood sprayed, hurling him 20 yards. Naruto crashed through a wall, rubble burying him, ribs cracking, breath ragged. He erupted from the debris, Spartan rage blazing hotter, blades whirled, axe spun, whip cracked, a whirlwind of fire, frost, and lightning. Yagura met him, coral reef barrage countering, spikes clashed with chains, frost shattered coral, Electricity sparked, blow for blow, a dance of destruction. Naruto's axe slashed. Frost wave froze Yagura's legs, slowing him. Yagura's tailed beast ball fired again. Point blank, Naruto ducked, the blast leveling a building behind, heat searing his back. The Mizukage staggered, coral crumbling, breath heavy. Naruto pressed, chains wrapping his club, yanking, fire burned, hooks bent, but Yagura roared, chakra spiking. Enough! He bellowed, cloak dissipating as his form shifted, massive, hulking, a turtle's shell forming, 3 spiked tails thrashing. Full Isobu form emerged, a monstrous beast towering over the ruins, eyes glowing, coral protrusions glinting. Naruto skidded back, panting, blood dripping, Spartan rage flickering, weapons trembling in his grip. Kurama snarled within, "He's a big one, brat." The ground quaked, Isobu's roar shaking the mist, a cliffhanger poised on the edge of annihilation. The ruins of Kirigakure quaked under the weight of Yagura's transformation. His full Isobu form towered over the shattered streets, a monstrous turtle. 3 spiked tails thrashing like living battering rams. His shell gleamed, impervious and menacing, one eye closed, the other glowing with feral intent. Naruto stood dwarfed but unbowed, blood dripping from his scars. Leviathan axe in one hand, Poseidon's trident in the other, blades of chaos and nemesis whip humming within. His Spartan rage flickered, red chakra flaring. Kurama snarled within, "Rip that turtle apart, brat," and his feral grin promised annihilation. Yagura roared, a sound that split the air, and rolled into a ball. Spiked ball assault launched him forward with terrifying speed, shell spikes spinning like a buzzsaw. Naruto's Hermes boots flared, a golden blur dodging left, stone shattered where he'd stood, debris flying, but Isobu pivoted mid-roll, tail whipping. Naruto ducked, the spiked appendage grazing his shoulder, blood sprayed, as he skidded back, boots cracking the earth. "Big bastard," he growled, charging, blades of chaos erupted, chains lashing at Isobu's shell, fire sparked, coral chipped, but the beast's tough shell held, deflecting the assault. Isobu unfurled, tail slamming the ground, tidal waves surged, massive walls of water crashing toward Naruto. He leapt, Hermes boots boosting him atop a ruined tower, water smashed it below, stone crumbling, but Isobu's tail struck again, a blur of force. Naruto parried with the Leviathan axe, frost met coral, ice cracking the spike, but the impact hurled him skyward, ribs groaning. He twisted mid-air, axe spinning, frost slashed downward, striking Isobu's shell, ice exploded, coral fractured, but the beast roared, unfazed. Yagura's voice echoed from within, distorted but resolute, "You'll fall, Uzumaki." Isobu's maw opened, water release, water blast fired, a high-pressured torrent obliterating a cliffside behind Naruto. He dodged, the blast grazing his leg, skin blistered, healing flaring, and countered with the nemesis whip. Spikes cracked with electricity, lashing Isobu's open eye. The beast recoiled, a guttural bellow shaking the mist, coral sprouting to shield the vulnerability. Naruto landed, grinning, rage empowerment surged, fueling his next move. Isobu rolled again, faster, spiked ball assault tore through the battlefield, a juggernaut of destruction. Naruto's bow of Apollo flashed, fiery arrows rained, exploding against the shell, flames licked, coral blackened, but momentum held. He braced, Poseidon's trident thrusting, prongs met shell, sparks flying as he skidded back, boots gouging trenches, his strength straining against Isobu's force. The beast unfurled mid-charge, tail slashing, Naruto ducked, chains lashing, blades wrapped a tail, fire searing, yanking, but coral grew along the chains, hardening, forcing him to release. The 3 tails reared, coral generation pulsing, jagged fields sprouted across the ground, spikes piercing upward. Naruto leapt, boots blazing, but a coral tendril snared his ankle, coral palm's legacy, binding tight. He roared, axe slashing, frost shattered the growth, blood dripping from his leg as he broke free. Isobu's tails whipped again, 3 strikes, a storm of spikes. Naruto parried one with the trident, dodged another, but the third slammed his chest, his durability held, blood sprayed, hurling him into a flooded street. Water closed over him, Isobu's domain, but Spartan rage ignited fully, red chakra boiling. Naruto erupted from the flood, eyes crimson, muscles bulging, blades whirled, axe spun, fire and frost clashed with Isobu's shell, a deafening explosion, coral cracked, scales chipped, the beast staggering. Yagura countered, shockwaves pulsing from Isobu's roar, force repelled Naruto's assault, chains snapping back, axe skidding, Naruto rolled, boots planting as he rose, panting, blood streaking his face. Isobu's eye glowed, hallucinogenic mist seeped forth, a shimmering haze exploiting Naruto's scars. Mei's bloodied form flickered. Hana's screams echoed, Uzushio's children wailed. Illusions won't stop me, and he charged through, whip cracking, electricity dispersed the mist, striking Isobu's shell, sparks danced, coral smoked. The beast retaliated, tailed beast ball forming, a massive orb of chakra, crackling with ruin. Naruto's Hermes boots blurred, he darted left, right, the ball fired, detonating a block behind, earth quaked, heat seared his back. Naruto closed in, axe slashing, frost wave froze Isobu's front legs, anchoring it, blades lashed, chains wrapped a tail, fire burning, yanking, the appendage tore loose, coral and flesh spraying, a howl shaking the ruins. Isobu's remaining tails struck, Naruto dodged one, parried another with the trident, prongs bent, body faltering, the third slammed his side, ribs snapping, blood gushed. He roared, Spartan rage peaking, axe spun, chains whirled, whip cracked, a whirlwind of frost, fire, and lightning. Isobu reared, tidal coral surge unleashed, a colossal wave laced with coral blades crashing forth. Naruto's bow of Apollo fired, arrows exploded mid-wave, steam rising, but coral shards pierced his arm, leg, blood flowed, healing slowing. He pressed, blades wrapping Isobu's neck, fire seared, pulling, the beast thrashed, coral sprouting to sever the chains. Naruto leapt, axe slashing, frost erupted, cracking Isobu's shell, scales split, blood oozed, Yagura's roar echoing within. The beast staggered, shell fractured, Naruto saw his chance. He charged, Spartan rage blazing, blades lashed, whip snared a tail, axe spun, a triple assault, fire burned, electricity surged, frost shattered, Isobu's eye widened, a desperate bellow as coral fields crumbled. Naruto leapt atop the shell, his strength surged, axe raised for the killing blow, frost gleaming when the air rippled. A figure materialized, orange mask, black cloak, a single Sharingan glowing, the masked man. Time slowed, Naruto's axe descended, Obito's Kamui swirled, a vortex of spacetime, Yagura's massive form shimmered, phasing, Naruto's blade struck empty air. Frost exploding uselessly as Isobu vanished into the void. Naruto landed hard, boots cracking stone, chest heaving, blood dripped, rage guttering. Obito stood yards away. Yagura's fading roar echoing from the Kamui dimension. Not yet, God Slayer, Obito's voice rasped, cold and mocking, before he too warped away, leaving Naruto alone amidst Kiri's ruins, a cliffhanger teetering on fury and loss. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.